o'clock. I'd like to welcome everybody to the July 16th meeting of the Hadley Select Board. We're having a by-board meeting with the Finance Committee tonight as well. I'm going to go through the boilerplate. Pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Act of 2022 as amended, this meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format. The public has been provided with adequate alternative means of access via Zoom as noted in the posted meeting notice, along with access and participation instructions. As chair, I hereby notify all participants that this meeting is also being recorded by the town through Hadley Media and will be made accessible to the public. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, any person who intends to record or transmit this meeting must inform the chair at this time.
No one's indicating.
No one's indicating. All right. So this evening on the select board, in person here, Amy Parsons, Molly Keegan, myself, Randy Iser, and we have David Phil on Zoom. Jane Nevett-Smith is not with us this evening. Let's see. Have you guys?
We adjourned,
Adjourned.
but we're gonna need to reopen.
Okay, why don't you do that?
Okay, I'd like to call this finance meeting to order. In attendance tonight, we have myself, Amy Fiden, Peter Matusko, Paul Benjamin, Shardul Parmar, and absent is Andy Kopech.
Thank you. Chief Administrator, do you need to do your item 2.1 first, or can that wait?
Whenever you'd like, sir.
All right, we'll wait then, since we have this by-board meeting, we might as well get started on that. So tonight we're going to talk about two things. Well, probably a multiple things, but the two main things are the potential override, and then we have a discussion about the generator at the water treatment plant on Bay Road. And I'd like to start with the override. So you guys gonna?
Yeah, I'll just
Take
give
that away.
a brief, just kind of a brief overview for the folks who might be watching at home or who may watch this recording at a later date. We'd like to do a couple of different things tonight. So I want everybody to be aware that Linda and I have been working over the course of the last several weeks and probably a month or two in working with our department heads to try to determine their needs as we move from FY26 into FY27. As you know, we've been discussing the fact that we are showing a significant shortfall as we move into FY27. And one of the ways to resolve this is a potential operational override. We have worked with the department heads in figuring out where they believe they're short. We have then worked that same process through our normal budget process, which is to work through line by line, item by item, where we believe we can make reductions with them, where we believe that there are ways to reduce costs, consolidate things like that. And we have a bottom line number that we think will get us to where we need to be. Unfortunately, we are still early on in the process. The second part of this, after Linda goes through these numbers, is we'd like to show you some of the progress that we've made on. Is that on? This is on, right? You can hear me, Alex? We'd like to show you some of the progress that we've made on putting together public forum information. We have been putting together slides, informational slides to explain to the public how we got to where we are and what we need to keep the services that we have and how we actually make that happen moving forward. So we'd like to show you those as kind of a first blush. This is certainly not complete and doesn't have all of the information necessary, but it's what we've gotten together so far. There's been a ton of work going on behind the scenes. So we'd like your input on that. And then the last thing that we would like to accomplish tonight, and I don't know if we'll be able to accomplish it tonight, but we do have a solution for that as well. And that is to answer, three basic questions. Do these groups support an override based upon what we're going to discuss as far as the numbers go? How much do you support as far as an override goes, based upon what we're going to explain to you tonight? And how do we approach the override? Meaning, you may hear a number that seems too high. Our initial reaction to this is to approach this as a single override request. However, the idea has been brought up in some internal finance team meetings that we've been having, that maybe we look at this and split it, figure out a way to break it up and ask for some now and some maybe in the springtime. All of it, we believe, is necessary. Again, we've worked with the department heads and they've justified their needs. And then again, we have still gone through and made reductions to those needs, at what we think is fair and, what we think will work. But in the end, at the end of this meeting, I think we'd like to try to get answers to those 3 questions. And if we are unable to, we'd like to try to sneak in maybe at least a Zoom meeting after folks think on it a little bit, sleep on it. Perhaps next Wednesday, in between this select board meeting and the next by-board meeting that we're going to have. That's a suggestion that, on my part. My hope is that we won't have to do that. Maybe we'll have our answer tonight, but those are the things that we would like to get accomplished for this very first by-board meeting. So that's that. If anybody has any questions generally, you can fire away. Otherwise, we can have Linda kind of work into the numbers and the data that we have for you.
A little softer than you want me to bring it in. So yeah, we will have a document to share.
I'm sharing co-hosting abilities with Alex so he can let people in.
Okay. And as large as we can make it, Jennifer, because some do have trouble reading the screen apparently. So I'll make more of an effort to bring hard copies in the future for the people at the table. I know it is hard to
please
look over.
remember that you can also go on to Board Docs on your devices and see all the documents there. Everything is up and available to view.
Okay, is that small?
That is as big as I can make it, sharing this way.
Okay, suppose we go to do the top half. Would that be able to be bigger?
The PDF, Linda.
Okay. All right, so the first, these are 3 FY26 budgets. Blue, green, and purple. Blue is the budget we voted at annual town meeting just a couple months ago, 2-3 months ago. This is the budget that was voted and fully funded in the spring. And if nothing else happens, we stand by that budget. One problem we have with, oh, that's good. I'd like to be able to say that it would last, but I have to say, I have to be honest too, and say that if we aren't able to find the alternate funding, aka override, then we know we can't go into 27 with this same level of budget. So it would most likely mean coming back into 26 and trimming back the 26 budget so that we have or would be allowed to go into a growth into a 27 budget. Rather than keep it high and drop, we would rather deal with any changes in 26, but we're hoping that won't happen. So for now, our premise is that is the budget we stand by. Now, if you recall, we said right then at the annual town meeting in May and at our meetings ahead of time that we would have to come back to the town because we did not provide for the ambulance budget. there was a lot of back and forth with these boards as to whether we would fund it out of stabilization, go for an override at that time, wait and see, or whatever. And it was decided no use of stabilization. So what we did is fund the ambulance budget only to the extent of the ambulance receipts that we had at the time, which is 94,000, which means that budget will run out sometime in September and would not be able to be sustained through 26. So that's why we needed to come. That's our number one reason for having to come back to you and to the town, is to see how we're going to fund that budget. Now, you did have a meeting a few weeks ago where the decision was clearly made not to go into the higher level of ambulance. So that gave us some guidance that we are not going to, that we didn't have to do the full increase that perhaps was being discussed, and that we are going to keep it back a bit. So we'll take it from here. So other issues with this budget is that several departments felt that they had been cut back too far. And I can't disagree with them. Sometimes you make cuts and you hope that that's going to be good enough, because we do have returns from departments at the end of each fiscal year, but we don't know where those returns are going to come from. But if some are left short, it's something we're just going to have to spend anyways. And for example, in the benefits line, the health insurance, we trimmed 100,000 out of that by doing some recalculations and thinking, well, if nothing else happens, this will be enough funding. But that's not the way we would want to do it. So we went back to all the departments, and since we had to come back anyways with the ambulance, I said, what do you really need to get through the year? So I will get into that, but actually first I should just scoot down. Is it easy enough to do that, John? Yeah, okay, you can scroll down. Okay, I do want to point out that in order to fund, now this whole second level is going to be, what did it take other than our revenues to fund that budget? So free cash used for the FY26 voted budget, $846,785. One issue that we're facing is it does not at this point appear that we're going to have that same level of free cash to put into next year's budget. And once we, so there's, again, something needs to be done. So, okay, let's go back up to the requests then. This includes all of the ambulances being added into the public safety line. Again, we were able to make some reductions there. The school one, the 130,000, that's just what was asked originally. We had cut that one back pretty far, and they were not asking for a large increase for 26. So it would be nice if we could at least give them that modest increase that they did ask for 26. So that went back in. So these are the requests for what we would like to have. I know. And actually, that's not true. We asked them what they really needed. Well, this was a need budget. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it that way. So there we go, 1.165 million. And if you scroll down, what does that mean? It means, well, not only did we need that $846,785 in cash, but the funding, if we met all of the needs requested, would be added to it, and we would be short to just over $2 million. So that's our starting point. Then we go into the recommended column. Let me see if there's anything. Yeah, this is higher than we had wanted. Finally, we have we could go back up to the top. Thanks, Jennifer. What are we recommending be added to the budget? So this is these are from requests and additional amounts that we could put in. We are still sticking with the no layoffs. I didn't see it certainly in my place to go through and tell individual departments that we're going to be cutting someone from your budget or from your department, or you'll be looking at 2 or 3 or anything with layoffs. That would be direction that would have to come from somewhere else. It's just needlessly it's needlessly disruptive at this point. If you are going to approve an override, if the town approves an override for funding them, then we just went around telling people, talking about layoffs unnecessarily. So this was an effort was made to not do layoffs. And that includes the ambulance that has been sent into the new, into the budget for the first time. So what else do I want to point out, next to, there's one more column, Jennifer, but I might as well leave it there and I'll just say what it is. Let me just point out in the top that you can see that only 5,577 was requested and we funded at 50,000 more. That's because we really need that, Finance Committee Reserve Fund account. When it comes to end of year transfers, as you'll see tonight when you're signing that form, we need it. We can't, we had cut that down to 20,000 for the budget that was approved by adding 50 and we'll have 70. And that's really much more appropriate to our needs. The public safety, a number of reductions were made there, again, primarily in expenditures. And as I said, the school went to the original budget. And then you'll see for the next three categories, our public works, our human services departments, and our cultural recreational, those are all salary, the salary increases either by union or by using those same rates with non-union personnel. Those are normal raises that the town is committed to. Let me see.
Human
So,
services went down by 10 from what they requested.
there is a reason for that. We did make the attempt to get the full, that's Council on Aging specifically. We had been at some point several years ago, a lot of the new positions were funded out of grants, and we have been intentionally trying to move those back into the budget. But so we've decided we'll still leave 10,000 out of the grants and hopefully be able to make that change in the future. So that's that 10,000. The person is still being paid. It's not a cutback or layoff. It's just we will not move the entire amount back into the budget this year, but we will try and do it for 27. So for salaries, all of these, again, just sort of reflecting overall on increases over the last year or two. We consider it right sizing of salaries and giving appropriate raises. And I want to point out that despite that, and I know some do feel like there's been higher increases than they would have wanted. I want to point out that despite that, we are still having hiring and retention issues in the town. And that is ongoing. And in some ways we certainly benefit from financially from having a position open for a while. And that's a number of the rollbacks at the end of the year are from that, but the town is not operating at the level that it was intended and what people are come to, what we aim to be providing to the town. So I think that sort of speaks for, they're not excessive raises and they're certainly not excessive salaries. But I guess that's an opinion. So again, we scaled back. As you can see, the difference between the two columns is about something over 200,000.
The majority of
Yeah.
it is public safety. You're saying that's not gonna affect no layoffs.
We stopped just
No.
before layoffs, cut
Yeah.
everything in from expenses from his expense lines as much as we could and stopped just before we would have to lay somebody out.
Is it
And-
just in the ambulance?
No, it's not just an ambulance. It also includes police and dispatch and even inspections. Those were the largest,
Those are all in the 200s as well.
Yeah,
those were the largest requests, and they all did get increases over what had been originally budgeted, but they did not get the full amount of request. I know, to be asking for this level of override and people didn't even get what they asked for is just crazy what has happened in the last year. The other explanation on that, Amy, is the requests were based on the ALS level. And a couple of the lines, we were able to just say, we don't need those expenses anymore. So a lot of the cuts out of, and I just met again with Mike Spanknebel this morning to make sure that we were clear and in agreement on what the cuts could be made and still function. There is also a backup plan there. There is money left in the article that was approved for ambulances, and we're going to, we decided rather than to ask that money, we move back, is that we do the reduction in the budget. And if needed, he can go back and use that. If, of course, if we don't get an override, there's no sense, I mean, that would just give that cushion so that they could do what they needed to wrap up, I guess. I don't know. We're hoping that it won't come to that. So, so that brings us down, if that's the level that we're funding at. Oh, I don't want to miss health insurance. And I sure wanted to miss health insurance, but okay, so remember I told you we cut the 100 out of it. And so we decided, and this is as of this morning, let's call this 9 o'clock this morning, saying we'll restore probably more than we think we need. I think the 100 was a big cut. I don't think we need the full 100, so we'll restore 75 of it. So that's where we were at 9 o'clock this morning. And then let me finish this column and then we will return to Lauren, who will, I'll say a little bit more first, but if we could just go to where this budget would land us. And the next, scroll down, Jen. Thank you. So there we are in that one. We have that base 846,000 free cash that got us to the starting line. And then the additional amount of 951,989 brings us at total funding shortfall of just under $1.8 million. So that's the recommended request that we move along to you. But if we could scroll, how about we finish and then you?
Okay.
Okay, because I just want, because I think this is really material. If we go back to the healthcare,
Okay.
health insurance. This is sometimes why budgeting is so difficult. We put that 75,000 in thinking that we were being generous, and then Lauren participated in a meeting at the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust this morning, and we've got some pretty difficult news on that front. Take it away, Lauren.
Yeah, so to throw a curveball in the mix, we were informed today that the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust is looking to do a double-digit mid-year increase as of 10/1 of 25. They started off at around 10%. However, they're looking somewhere between 15 and 20% to increase it by as of October 1st. So this would be the second double-digit increase within the year. Additionally, they're looking to increase again as of July 1st, a double-digit increase for our HMO plans, or HMO and PPO plans. The MedX is looking to increase by 20% as of January 1st. And they say this is due to high dollar claims coming through that are over $100,000. So this is obviously going to be a huge hit. It's 3/4 of the year, so it's projected to be about $268,000 at the 20% in additional funds towards health insurance. Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, they are looking into some alternatives like offering a low deductible plan, a high deductible plan, or even going out for different coverage altogether. I think they're trying to avoid that because that means impact bargaining with all our unions. There are 72 group members in the trust, and they plan to meet July 30th to have a vote on the actual increase in number. Again, it's projected to be between 15 and 20% to change October 1st. So.
And ultimately, if the voting members don't vote to support these increases, Hampshire County Trust has suggested that they will essentially have to close their doors and shutter. And then we'll be responsible for covering our claims, any claims that we have out of pocket.
And that translates roughly to 280 to 300,000. Is that the ballpark?
The
Yes.
total, if they have the total estimated increases that they had been suggesting. The starting in October and then the second set in July 1 of 26, you're talking about 380,000 total. Total
Yes.
across the board, but what we would have to come up with at certain times, as Lauren said, that October one, we only have to worry about 3/4 of that payment at that time, so you're talking about 289. 287, something like that. 290, somewhere around there
Yep.
for this year. So that slightly changes things. We have had about 3 hours to think about this. So your 1.8 request, the recommended request for your override is essentially for staff and insurance costs as it stands based upon what we know from our department heads in order to keep sailing in FY 27. Now we have to consider this added insurance costs that we just learned about a few hours ago.
So not only,
Oh, can you let that person in, please?
Alex? Oh, got it.
Yeah, that's what we proposed. Okay.
so,
And I'm just to be
Yeah.
clear for everybody here and out in the audience, this is not just Hadley specific increases. This is everybody that's in the insurance group, correct?
Correct, yes, that is correct. So there's 72 members within the group, so you know, it's quite vast. They're all experiencing this increase, and I did ask you know, whether others are experiencing this as well. They said yes, so it's not unique to just here in Hadley. It's happening across the board, so.
Mhm. Thank you.
Just as an aside, at some point, in the past, we've invited Joe Shea in just to talk about the trust and everything, so I'm sure he's a bit busy right now, but it would be great to have that conversation again about why self-insurance versus not and all of that. And I think this underscores the reason why we should be talking about it. Okay, so
So if-
punchline that is.
so the insurance, so the insurance would add, let's just say adds close to $300,000 to this. Not only is it in addition to, but it quite honestly jumps the line. It becomes most important. You know, it's our last piece of information, but it's something that we really have no choice about. We have to fund that. So, you know, how do we handle that with the rest of the budget? I think that there's so many ways we can do this budget. I think what we need as a starting point now, since you see what the pieces are, we're wanting you to come up with a dollar amount that you think that you could support and the town might support as an override. And then we'll back into the budget. First, we'll put the 400, you know, we'll put the insurance money and we'll put the other mandatory requests in here, mandatory payments, and, you know, we'll build a budget from there. Otherwise, there are many, many different kinds of budgets, and we don't, as I said, we don't want to play with it too much and pick a department and eliminate an employee. We're trying to avoid that kind of disruption. We'd like to, what's the bottom line? What do we need to do? And then when we'll work with it from there.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like for our two committees tonight. You know, because again, don't know how far apart we all are. The numbers are going to continue to be refined. I mean, just a great example today. In a bad way, right? Getting news. And the other piece of information that came about too is in prior meetings, we were talking about the likelihood of the local options tax being increased. And heard back from Joe Comerford's office that unfortunately that particular provision hasn't even been assigned to a committee yet. What that means in legislative protocols is that the likelihood of that coming to fruition, you know, anytime soon is pretty slim. Joe's continuing to push for it, but not everybody's on board with it, so they remain hopeful it will happen, but not anything that we can possibly rely on for this budget cycle. Down the road, fingers crossed, but not now. So,
Now, Lauren, you were saying there was the meeting that you went to was almost 300,000 for the, this is health insurance, correct?
Correct, yep.
Does the town pay fully all the health insurance for the employees? And how much of the
We cover 65,
employees are they paying for their own insurance?
we cover 65% of the premiums for employees. The employees are responsible for 35%.
That's for both individual and family.
Correct.
whatever coverage they have.
Yeah, 65% of family as well.
So what I'm just wondering is to try to just keep things moving forward. You know, we're looking at 2 million, we're looking at 2.1 million. Maybe if that's too high, we're looking at 1 point, but we're not looking at 500,000. We're looking at somewhere, I'll just say give or take 200,000 in that range. And I'm wondering if we can talk about that. And I know that I think maybe putting some context around that magnitude and number, Jennifer did a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
We could just look at her slides before we.
Sure.
More.
While she's getting that, one other thing we talked about this afternoon is that 846,000, how solid that is, the base, the free cash that brings us to this point. Is there any give there? We don't think that we're going to get that 840. We're not going to get free cash like this. I have one part of it, which is the rollbacks, but I don't have the revenue figure yet. We don't have the other factors. But so depending on what our free cash certification comes in at, we could sort of relax that need to fully fund without using free cash and perhaps put some more of the free cash back into the budget this year. So there may be a little bit of give on that one. Yep.
Do we want to start right here?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike has given all of us the numbers before. You go to the DLS website, you can calculate these numbers yourself by just putting in the override amounts. So I went in, these are the amounts. I did 1.7 to 2 million. I threw 2 million on quickly this afternoon because of Lauren's news. I was not providing that until then. So this is what it looks like. Right now, we're at 1163. If we went up to 2 million, we're talking about $13.15. That is about a 7-cent increase between each one.
Each step, each $100,000,
$100,000.
it's probably 7.5 cents because you look, see it goes 8 and then it goes 7, then it goes 8. So I figured 8,
So we're
7.5
talking
cents.
7.5 cents.
Per 100,000.
On per 100,000. Okay. This is what it looks like as a chart, just showing the increases as you move through. I think it's a pretty modest as you move through the increase. I did want to take a moment to show y'all what our neighbors are doing. As you can see, we're actually quite a bit below our closest neighbor, Sunderland. They're at $13.02. If y'all did a 2 million override, y'all would still be the second lowest town in the area and only be 13 cents over Sunderland. I just want to put that sort of in perspective of what your neighbors are doing and what services they're getting and what it costs to do those things. And then I will show you what the impacts are for each of these options. We did, again, DLS website, everything's there, anybody can do it. The only thing I did is I broke out on the side what it comes out to per month for the average house. So at 350, if we did a $1.7 million override, we're talking $37 a month. Broke that down all the way through. Again, this is what we were hoping for earlier today. And I was doing extra numbers just to have them. But again, 1.8, if you look at 350, we're talking $40 a month. 1.9, $42 a month. And this is the $2 million mark. It's $44 a month additional in taxes for the override. I think those are really important numbers. I know it's when you see the override amounts, $2 million, and think of the tax increase, it can be a little overwhelming, but when you break it down to $44 a month, it might not have quite the same impact. And I thought it would be important for you to see that. Yes.
Do you have numbers over the 550? Because you'd say 500 is pretty much the base low of the average houses that we have. Where you have those that are up to the 800,000 to 900,000 to knowing of what their numbers are, because
The average household in Hadley is $453,000, and I think 760, something like that, but 453 is the median. So that's what I chose to show. I can email you the link and you can see it all. Yep,
You
Not a
you
problem.
already have it. I sent it to the
that's
finance
right.
committee last week.
yep, you have it. So if you just look at the list, Peter, you just scroll down, and you can see
Yep.
it starts at 250 and keeps moving.
Well, if you doubled 550 and made it 1.1 million, could you reasonably assume that's $138 a month?
I would leave it that
For sure, yeah, it's gonna be.
fair assumption.
I think so. Right, yeah. David's got his hand.
David,
I haven't seen.
So I was just gonna suggest that for town meeting purposes, if we can throw in a number on there per $100,000 of property value. I've gotten a lot of people that says, well, great, 450, but how does that work if my house is 575 or something like that? So if we can put a number up there per 100,000, that way people can kind of extrapolate what their value is, on town meeting floor and kind of figure it out on the fly. I think that would be helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that
Good idea.
that was one of the reasons why we wanted to show you what we have so far. We really need suggestions on what we think people will get and understand and help them understand where we're headed when we go to these public forums.
so is that all that your presentation?
I have override dates for the forums, but I can quit sharing and show that back again at the end. Are there any of those that y'all want to see again?
I think I hate to be this person, but I will. No, it's hard to see, right? If you look at like the tax rates by town, you're like, oh my gosh, Williamsburg, Amherst, Southampton, whatever. They look so much higher than us, but a $453,000 house in Hadley isn't necessarily going to have the same value in another town. So I like to house shop for funsies. Never gonna buy one, but you can, maybe buy more house and somewhere else too. So it's like, just because it says, 19% Williamsburg, you might be able to get a house that's, almost twice the size for the same price
those towns.
in other towns. Yeah.
I think it's cheaper.
No, it's not in Williamsburg, but
Or
other
Northampton.
towns like Leverett, their housing is cheaper than here.
But other than Northampton and Amherst, we have a much higher revenue base on our commercial, where you could say comparable to, Sunderland and East Hampton and Hatfield, their taxes are higher. But we have a much higher revenue on our commercial, so something still just seems out of balance with the revenue that we're making from our commercial property. Our tax is low and we're still in financial trouble.
So with our commercial base comes responsibilities. That's the roadways, that's more police, that's more fire, that's more ambulance, that's more DPW services,
Yeah.
that's sewer, that's water. All that tax rate that's served us so well for so long, there comes a responsibility back to them to provide those services, and that's what it is.
But it always has.
It
always has.
has.
That's nothing new. The bottom line is what we're up against is inflation. And cost of employing people, inflation and cost of building things, inflation and cost of running our operations. And you know, you've said many times, we built buildings that we didn't include a budget for the operational costs that went with them. And moving forward, I know our board, I think, is gonna be very strong on this, that if we're quoting what we're paying for a building, we're gonna wanna know what are the operational costs if it involves extra people or just cost of operating it, and what are we putting aside for maintenance? Okay, and while we're on maintenance, this covers the operational side. We have also talked about having a partial override, a portion of this override be dedicated towards amending the way we spend money. Which is that we put some money aside for capital, we put some money aside for a fund for maintenance, because we have to fix these buildings as they get worn out. You know, we're using these buildings. You know, and we're not maintaining them the way we should. Okay. And things are starting, you know, things are getting worn because they're being used, and that's a great thing, but we don't have money set aside for that. So although we're at 2 million already, I think. I strongly want us to include either an additional pump on top to that is dedicated, even if it has to be a separate vote because it's gonna be dedicated funds. I still wanna see some money being set aside for future capital to build up money for that, so that we don't run into this. We gotta get out of this cycle we're in. Okay, we need to correct this. And also some money set aside for a maintenance fund.
So,
And I just want to point out, just being the commercial guy here. You know, our tax rate would be probably closer to Williamsburg without the landfill. And Williamsburg is almost 60% higher than what our tax rate is here. While in terms of how much commercial base provides taxes to the town, it's significantly more than what they're you know, than in terms of increase that you would have really experienced.
Right, no, that's a really good point, because we're like 2/3, 1/3.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you know, it's more than 1/3 of our taxes, so it would go up by 50% roughly. So our tax rate would be $17, $18 if it were not for the commercial base in this town. And we probably wouldn't have a school system, because we'd probably be a regional school system by that point.
There's a ton of what ifs.
Right.
We just need to address what we have in front of us. Now, David,
So I was just gonna say, are we deciding on a number tonight, or are we gonna decide on a kind of a direction to go and fill in a number as we get closer and things are refined? What's the plan?
I think they want a number if we can give it to them so that they can create the plan.
Okay, because I think that going for 2 bites of the apple with asking for a little bit now and a little bit later is I think gonna lead to a sure failure down the road. So my thought is that whatever we're gonna ask for, I think needs to be a one-shot deal. It's either gonna pass or it's not. But I think saying, hey, we're gonna get this now and then, you know, we'll see in a couple months is just gonna get us into more trouble.
David, when you say that, are you talking about the what Paul was just explaining, the capital and maintenance plan part of it as well?
I think anything we ask for, we need to ask for now and give the voters a shot at it versus say, hey, we're gonna do an override for operational, we're gonna do an override for maintenance, we're gonna do, you know, down the line. It needs to be one override, and either voters are gonna take it or they're not. But you know, we haven't done this in what, 20 years, something like that. So it's
With 40.
yeah. So I mean,
40.
okay, 40. So you know, people are they're not going to have much tolerance or patience to, you know, see a bunch of overrides one after another, regardless of what they're for. So I think we put it all out there and give it our best shot.
All right, so anybody else have anything else?
No, because if we add that in,
Yeah.
the number is 2.3.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say, is that ultimately what it comes down to is this: the first decision is do you want this? Right, because ultimately Linda and I and Lauren and Jennifer, all we can do is present you the data and the numbers. Technically speaking, the way that overrides are handled is this is a select board and finance committee override. So we're the quarterback right now, but we're handing the ball off to you at some point very soon. So if the answer is no, we are not interested in pursuing an override. We'd like you to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to bring these budgets down to make them work, then we can do that for you. If the answer is yes, then we can move on to the next step, which is deciding on a number. My suggestion for the number, only because of the insurance situation, if that hadn't happened today, I think we would be pretty confident in recommending the number that's on your forms, that 1.8 million. And then, as David mentioned, we would factor in how much we could have a discussion as to what we'd like to add on as far as this maintenance and capital account. And that would be tacked on to the top of it. My recommendation at this point, only because we're talking about large sums of money when it comes to that insurance situation, is that they are having a vote on July 30th. That's when we're going to know what the numbers are. Our first public forum, whatever we call them, was scheduled for the 29th. We'd like to move that 2 days ahead forward so that we have the numbers and then we can have the public forum with those new numbers. But unless we hear from you tonight that, yes, we want to pursue an override, definitely, it really doesn't make any difference. So I think of the three things that we wanted to know tonight, we got an answer from, I saw nodding heads when David was making a suggestion about the one ask. That was one thing that we wanted to know. Do we want to split this, break it up? I think we're all on the same page when it comes to a single ask. But we do need to know the first question, which is, are we supporting this idea in the first place? Is this something that we want to do as a select board, as a finance committee? So if the answer is yes, that's two answers. That's two answers to tell us to continue to move forward. And then all we need is that final number. And then we can back into a budget, as Linda had mentioned earlier, because if we know the number, we can work our way backwards, make whatever cuts necessary. If there are any cuts that are necessary after this to hit that mark for you.
Based on what you've been telling us, to say to us that if we are against the override, you will go back in and cut the budget. I think that you've cut it as much as you can to keep things status quo, level funding, if you will. So my opinion is whatever that number is that you think is the least amount we need, plus the new insurance, that is the number that makes sense to me. And I agree with Paul that we probably ought to add something for this capital and maintenance. David?
I hate to give Linda and the chief administrator more work, but I do think for presentation purposes that you should have some sort of alternative budget ready to go. So that way you can say to the voters, if this does not pass, this is what we're going to end up doing with positions. There'll be X number of positions cut. There'll be the X number of hours, services, etc., in order to meet our budget that was passed at town meeting. Because otherwise, people are going to, well, what's the worst that could happen? What kind of changes are we looking at? Are we looking at, one less DPW labor, or are we looking at, wiping out the senior center staff kind of thing? So people need to know one way or another what's going to change if it passes or if it doesn't pass.
David, just on that thought, I think asking Linda and company to make, I mean, ultimately those decisions are going to wind up in our lap. So I'm wondering if, I agree with you that we need to give them more information. I'm just wondering how we do that. So maybe identifying like the fixed costs in the budget, like no matter what, this is what we have to pay. And that only gives us these variable costs, if you want to call people variable, which I hate to. And then, so there's no question, we're going to have to carve out, I don't know the number, $800,000 from salaries, and it's going to be felt across town, without having to say it's DPW, it's fire, because I don't think we're there yet. I mean, Do you think that would be enough?
Yeah, yeah. If we could come up with a dollar amount to say, you know, our only option for cuts here is salaries or, you know, snow removal, something like that. You know, then people know what we're working with.
Equal this number.
Mhm.
That's all we can do. Everything else is expenses. We've already cut it.
Peter?
Just a thought, all of our expenses are the employees and the insurance. And the union costs. Most of the employees are gonna be, of the town employees are getting their 2 to 3% raises every single year, right? For increases. Why don't we increase the amount of insurance that the employees have to pay and less for the town?
That's a bargaining
It's a
point.
union, a
yeah.
union contract thing that
Yep.
we're stuck with.
Yeah.
So we're stuck with that. We can't
Well,
bargain
right
with that
now.
of saying 65, 35.
We can bargain,
I mean, if that's something to helping, cause.
but it's not gonna, the point, but it's not gonna happen for FY 26.
Right, but I'm just saying to put the thought that if we're, you know, you wanna raise the taxes to all the taxpayers. And all the town employees are getting all their raises and the union benefits, then. Why not compensate a little bit, maybe the 5%, making it 60-40? Cause if we're paying for all everything that they have, and they're the debt of the town anyway. Maybe that might help out within negotiations to. You know, not everybody in every single job do they get every year 2 to 3% raises.
The other side of that is, you know, if we're already going on record saying we're concerned that we have a staffing issue, right, where it's very difficult to attract people in.
Right.
It doesn't mean that, you know, we couldn't go back and try to bargain that back out, but we also have to look at what other, you know, in the market, what other municipalities are paying too. So I think if Hadley's an outlier and we're paying a lot more than other municipalities, it's a little bit more palatable to come back to the table. But if we're in line with other markets, then, I mean, healthcare is huge for people, you know, so you don't want to entice them to go somewhere else. So do I. Yeah, I know. We're in the same boat.
Right.
So.
The other realistic answer to that question is that you have to bargain it, meaning you have to negotiate it. So you're gonna sit down with the union and basically say, we'd like you to pay more for your health insurance. Well, you have to give them something for that. That's what the negotiation is.
Their jobs.
And if you're, yeah, and if you're asking them to pay more, they're gonna negotiate something so they can afford to pay more.
Correct.
It's that simple.
But again, I mean, you know, I think there are a lot of suggestions, you know, for potential things to be on the table down the road, but you know, I think we have to be realistic about what we can change right now. You know, that's not something.
So are we in favor or against an override? We need to at least answer that question.
Yeah,
How do we
do a straw poll or just go down the line?
Straw poll is fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any other way. I know.
Amy,
Yeah, I mean, it's not really about want, it's about need.
correct.
Like, I don't want to, but I
Yeah.
think that we need it.
Amy too?
Yeah. For it, I'm also for, as long as everything's together, as long as we're showing differently and the capital maintenance is in with that. That is, I would like to try, if we're looking at numbers, it would be great to see. When in my head with the numbers, I was hoping that an average taxpayer, if you did the average household, would be under the $700. So if you were like $699, under that. Because of course you're talking about, oh, this is how much an average taxpayer is gonna pay if you're gonna. Once you go over that, it's, so if you can just stay underneath it,
Average household.
So you're saying
is
half is whatever that is.
684.
684, so I mean,
That's
that's
2
only,
million.
that's 2 million, but we also want that. To be,
Capital fund.
that capital fund to be in there, so I was just saying,
Yeah.
on an average, they were $699.
So you want, you're okay with this format, you just wanna make sure that everything is put into these numbers so that we know the total effect, got it?
Peter?
I'm gonna say no, and I'm gonna let the taxpayers make the decision whether or not of how they want their money being spent. And I think everybody's already assuming that with this override, all these things are all gonna happen. Like David was saying, that it's tough to make that contingency plan, that if it does not pass, as to what are the things that would be cut. I know it's tough to pinpoint as to saying what departments, what people, but I think I'm gonna say no and let the taxpayers make that decision as to knowing of there might be repercussions to this. And for them to understand that if there are any layoffs or if there are any cuts or not the primary people that are working there, to let them making this the decision. So I'm gonna say no.
Okay, thank you.
I'm, sadly, I think we have no choice. You know, I'd love to not have an override. I own commercial property, I own some residential property. So I will take a large hit with this, but I think this is something the town needs to do. I think we're making up for, again, we're making up for some past mistakes in the way we took our money out of reserves and out of free cash, so we got addicted to, you know, balancing the budget without raising taxes when we should have raised taxes a few years ago. We would be in this position. But I also think we're adding to our fire department and some other. I think we need a full fire department, and we're gonna get a little bit of an ambulance service out of it also. So I support that, but I do again want to see one go, and I want to see us add in the maintenance.
Okay, Chardo?
Yes.
Okay, that's for sure.
And David already went on record saying yes.
David, you're in?
Yes, my short answer is yes, but do I like it? No. Does my wallet like it? No, but it's for more than 5 people on the select board to decide. It has to be a town meeting thing. So I think, yes, we have to put it out there and let people decide, do they want to maintain what we have, or do we need to cut things?
And I say we have no choice as well, so I am in favor. So you have that directive.
Thank you. Just to throw out there, to Peter and David's point, we can give you a general idea of if we have to make, if the override doesn't pass, that we will have to make reductions. One of the things that we have been doing over the past several weeks is, while we were asking the departments for their green column, which is, what do you need to continue your services? Part of the question was, if you don't get this, what will happen? What can you not provide the town? And so while we're unable to be super specific about it, we can give a general idea of what that might look like. To Molly's point, the issue is that if we get into a point, I shouldn't even say if, we absolutely will get into a point where we have to go into staff. Like, there's nothing else to cut in expenses. So we will have to go into employees. The problem with that is that decisions will need to be made at this level as to who that might be. You have some positions that are completely unfunded. So the logical thing would be they go first. They're not funded after a certain period of time. However, we are all well aware of what those unfunded positions are, and they are essential employees. I think we've all determined that these are public safety people and that we need them. So that means that we would have to go somewhere, we would have to go elsewhere to make those reductions. So those are decisions that would have to come from this group. Essentially, we would have to sit down and decide. We'll start with non-essential staff first and then work our way in the other direction. So again, we can be general about it, and we have spoken to the department heads that have given us a pretty good picture of what it'll look like if they don't get what they need, but being super specific about who we might be missing when this is all over, we can't give you that, but we can get close. So we'll do the best we can with that.
And we need to pull, I would imagine, pull Annie and the school committee further into this as well,
Mhm.
because they have chimed in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, I've been putting together kind of a master plan, so to speak, of this horror show that we're talking about here. And part of it is the fact that the school is such a huge question mark, because I'll be honest with you, I don't fully understand how their budget and their school committee work with the rest of the town when it comes to what happens if there's no funding? How does that work? I mean, at this point, what do we have? 9, Lauren, 9 unions in town?
I believe so, yeah.
9, and that includes the schools. And so we're talking about labor laws and things like that that are working against each other. Who has seniority and how do you know, can people bump being laid off and things like that? So there's a lot of things that are gonna be at play here.
Okay, so it's 7 o'clock. We have a public hearing,
Okay,
so we're gonna have to put this on hold. What's the proper procedure for doing that? Do we go into recess?
It's an appointment, right?
It's 7 o'clock, it's a public hearing, you can just hit pause on this, you don't have to do anything in particular, just say, please hold on this discussion, you have been a public hearing.
So we're gonna put this discussion on pause until we get through this public hearing. I don't imagine.
Then you
Fine.
have owner for the first 44,
That's a public hearing?
alcohol change, yeah, it's a license change, it's a public hearing.
Okay, I realize that.
Okay, so it shouldn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes. Do I need to read this?
You could, yes.
Okay, so it's 7 o'clock. We have a public hearing scheduled. Notice is hereby given as per the provision of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, that the Select Board, acting as the local licensing authority, will hold a public hearing at 7 p.m. on July 16th, 2025 in the Hadley Senior Center Dining Room at 46 Middle Street, Hadley, Mass. 01035, and on Zoom meeting ID 858-2410-3809 on the transfer of an off-premises all alcohol license from LFFHA Inc., DBA Liquors 44 Hadley to Hadley 44 Corporation, DBA Liquors 44 Hadley, 458 Russell Street, Hadley, Mass. 01035. The public is invited to attend. Jennifer?
Yes, so Liquors 44 has come with a change of owner. They submitted their license, it's in order, or their application is in order. And we have notified the public via Daily Hampshire Gazette. Matthew Porter is the attorney representing the new proposed owner, and I see the new proposed owner and former owner are both on here. Maybe Matt could take up through it.
Yes.
I'd be happy to. Good evening, board. My name is Matthew Porter. I am the attorney for the applicant this evening, which is Hadley 44 Corporation. Along with me on the Zoom hearing is Harmit Raval. Mr. Raval is the 100% shareholder of Hadley 44 Corporation, president, treasurer, secretary, director. He before you is the transfer of the liquor license associated with the sale of Liquors 44 in Hadley at 458 Russell Street. In Hadley. Mr. Raval, the applicant here, brings a wealth of experience. He has 4 other locations across the state, so very experienced operator. His father was in the industry, so he basically grew up in this world and has now struck out on his own, operating several successful stores, 2 of which are out in Western Massachusetts. So in addition to that, Jonathan Keefe, who's the existing manager of the location, who's been there for the last 25, 30 years, is going to be staying on board, continuing to manage the location on a day-to-day basis. So from an outward perspective, there really will not be, many changes here whatsoever. No changes to the hours, changes to the structure of the business. I know that there was an alteration of the premises before the board recently where they were taking over the HR block spot. That portion of it has already been approved by the town. So that's essentially what's before you today. It's a very experienced operator coming in, keeping a very experienced manager in place. So with that, I can certainly answer any questions that the board may have. Mr. Raval can as well.
Anybody on the board have any questions?
No.
Seems pretty straightforward and cut and dry to me. So
I'll make a motion to approve the change of ownership.
Oh, second, sorry.
motion by David, second by Molly. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
Parsons.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
All right,
Well,
appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Andrew.
All right, we're back at it.
Thank you. Hey, by the way, 2.3 million The average household at 450,000 is 787.50. Which is under the 800 that you said that you would be able to accept.
Except that,
Oh, under, or,
Peter, come on back.
I thought you said.
Oh.
And Paul.
We'll do 2.2.
Just wanted to make an instance. Thank you.
Well done.
It worked.
All right.
Next guest.
So outside of any other questions, just to, in the interest of time, we appreciate the direction we've gotten so far. So the last question is this. For those of you who are in support of moving forward with this override, would you be in support of us utilizing the 1.8 number, adding on to that what we find out from the insurance, and then the capital or maintenance amount on top of that, and that is your override? Understanding that with those additions, you have now broken the $2 million mark, and we are probably closer to 2.1 to 2.2, 2.3.
I got
Schedule, yeah, because we're talking about 200,000, 250,000 to be anything, to be a meaningful number to put into that capital line. So you can give us a cap and we can work backwards with that number, or we can utilize the number that we get from the insurance and then put $250,000 for the capital and the maintenance line on top of that, and that's your number.
So why don't you, in my opinion, work with that? If it becomes an issue, then the only thing I feel that is adjustable would be the capital and maintenance override
And that's
number.
what I wouldn't go, if you make everything adjustable and then you just pull out of the capital maintenance, then what's the purpose? So I would not.
We have a
Pull
need
out
to
of-
fix this.
I understand that.
And
I understand.
think we have a very strong case to put in front of people. And I think we should do it.
But I think to Amy's point, I like what Amy said with saying that. We should shoot for an average, like that $700. We need to think about, I think we need to work backwards. In other words, if 700 is really the most that we're really. That we're going to. Our palate level that we're gonna accept, then we tell them that so they can work backwards. On saying, okay, $700 increase gives us a number of something that Jennifer is gonna come and provide, and then
2.1,
what was that?
2.1 will be under 700.
2.1,
That being said, 2.2 is 715 for the average household. So we're
but
talking $20 over.
so let's just say 2.1, because we're gonna shoot for under 700, and then we would want that I think, as Amy pointed out, it's kind of the things that are non-negotiable, whether that maintenance fund, that capital fund, is at a non-negotiable, non-starter, because if we're not gonna do that, to Paul and Amy's point, it's kind of fruitless, because we're gonna run into this same issue going forward.
I just worry about the 700 feels a bit arbitrary to me. I think the 2.3 million, we know how we got there. What I agree with, I want to see that money going into the capital, and maintenance. But we're also assuming that full 864,000 or whatever the number was for the free cash.
Yeah.
That to me is where this is a little bit squishy. We know that every year the departments aren't gonna turn back 600,000. We know we're not always gonna have 800,000 in free cash. We're probably gonna have at least 200,000 though. I mean, so maybe that's where we back it off a little bit, but stick with our numbers.
My only point
Starting point.
My only point with that is giving the voters the option to saying, look, this is what we think, and these are the services. That those non-essential services that are nice to have. But aren't really required to keep this town operational.
But that's what I'm saying, if we stick with 700 and we're now at 2.1, and we know 300,000 of it's going to the increase in insurance.
Yes, we're at 1.8.
Right, we're at
1.8, but
Right.
then, minus another 250,000. So in other words, that number, the budget line is really closer to 1.6.
That's what I'm saying. So by giving him the $700, you're forcing, we're already making cuts.
Well, I think there has to be some give and take. We can't be all. It can't be all taking.
Well, and I also think that when we did those buildings, those 3 buildings, and if you ask anybody, everybody remembers what number? The $95 on an average. They don't remember what it costs. They just remember $95 on an average tax bill. That was like, so.
There was actually less than that in actuality.
It actually did turn
But
out.
I mean, it's the staff, it's the turnout, right?
Yes, so
I think to Amy's point.
as opposed to the rate,
Right.
They
not the
don't know
rate
They don't.
and
know
not
how
the
much
total.
you spent on the buildings, they don't know what you did on it. All
okay,
they
that's a
know
good point.
is it was $95 on an average house.
I have a
Yeah.
question as to. Is there a number of how much we want in capital? And then after, is there a certain number that we want because of how many buildings that we have? As to how much do we want to allocate? This building, it's newer. 25,000. Old library, that because it's older, 50,000. Has anybody thought about actually for all the buildings as to maintenance, or is this just gonna be a rollover? To it always going up and just spending more, saying on the general, of course, the older the building is, it's gonna be needing more money for maintenance. Has anybody even thought about that as to how much per building, what it would need? And then
So-
after, how much do we wanna put into capital for buying things instead of using free cash? Has anybody thought of that?
So I-
Of a number?
No, I think that evaluation should be done. Whether or not now is the time to do it.
Well,
and how
so,
long it's gonna take to do that.
I mean, I guess the good part about it, Peter, to answer your question is. I think everybody here can agree that we want to hear what the taxpayers have to say about this, and if they say no, obviously they've told us what they really, what they want. If they say yes. The good part is that as far as the capital goes and, capital improvement projects, maintenance and buildings, purchasing equipment and vehicles and things like that. These are all still things that have to be voted at town meeting. So the town gets to decide.
Right.
I don't think we can give you a number as far as how much this building needs versus this building. I think there are probably, committees out there that could give us a better idea. I know Andy's, has a really good grasp on what things, there's a formula for it, for how old a building is, how many square feet it is, and how much money you would need for maintenance. But again, somebody would have to bring forward a request for said building, and then the town gets to decide. So we'd all be sitting at a town meeting and people would say, all right, let's argue the merits of this idea, and then it could be moved that way. Those accounts can only be touched by town meeting. So that will be one kind of safeguard.
Understand, because if we're talking about it's a 1.8 for general, and because of insurance, that's already 2.1, and whatever the numbers you were saying, 700,000. I mean, if you're going to 2.3, that's 200,000 for the 7 or 8 buildings that we have. So how much money is really that gonna be towards capital? How much is that gonna be towards maintenance? So is that really number to what we want to buying whatever?
Well, you also have to remember that the way this will be written up is that this is an annual operational override.
Right.
So that much money will be going in every single year.
Right,
So it's the idea that, when Paul kind of floated this idea in the first place, it wasn't, with that amount of money, it wasn't going to solve all of our problems overnight, but it puts us in a much better position to have to borrow less for things that we can pay cash for.
so it's always gonna roll over into it, but I also wanna have okay, if we don't use it, we're gonna lose it.
No.
No, it's-
No, that's here.
But you know what I mean? It's like, it's keep on going there, it's gonna keep on accumulating, which that's what we wanna be able to do.
Right.
Which I understand that completely, if we don't have to take it out of stabilization or free cash, that's what we wanna
So
be able to
Peter,
do.
my idea was it was not to completely, so like this building needs one thing for maintenance, well, they have a maintenance budget in the general. Our regular budget, so they're still gonna have a maintenance budget. This is for bigger things, paint town hall.
Or they lose their air handler.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I,
Something like that.
I understand, but you kind of wanna have a number of, oh, let's make it 2.5, and then after that number goes from 700 and whatever to 800, because we wanna build capital and maintenance for it to keep on accruing for what we really need, which is great, but it's that number from now 700 to 850, you know, to thinking about the future.
But this is the building block. I mean, we're not gonna go to the voters in 2 years and say, gee, we have enough capital to buy this new thing, because there's only a little bit being put aside every year.
Mhm.
The idea is that this is an investment for the future. Okay, to start saving.
Start.
The other thing I think we need to be cognizant of, and what concerns me about capping, and I know that number sounds really good at 700. Maybe we should be at 7.25. Because I'm telling you, that 300,000 is the first penny that just dropped. But we are on very thin budgets right now, and there are some other things that we don't know about that could come down the pike because of federal cutbacks, then state cutbacks. And we are gonna need every dollar we can get to be prepared for those things. If we don't have problems, at the end of the year, we're gonna allot free cash. Okay, and so we can then put more money aside for capital and for other savings things. And if there's something crucial that we had to cut at some point, we may be able to reinstate that. Okay, and that's why I'm concerned about picking the number. And I hear what you're saying and I agree with you, but I also think it's how we're gonna protect the people and what those needs are. And I really don't wanna underestimate where we are in the hole we're in. And in order to say, oh, well, we only need, this much for the average house, because I think we're gonna be back here in 2 or 3 years in the same wedge we're in right now.
Which is exactly the point that David Phil
Right.
made. Let's do it once.
Let's do it once,
Right.
and let's do it for what we need.
Right, I agree with
Okay,
that.
and I'm very concerned, I hear what you're saying, I hear what you're saying, but I think that is an arbitrary thing, and I think if you went on, I'm sorry, I just think that we have to, let's get with the number and we'll figure out how we're gonna communicate.
Yeah, and to Amy's previous point about everybody remembered $95. Well, what if everybody hears $700 and then a person like me who's got 2 properties that are valued way over average, and I think, oh, all I gotta do is pay $700, no big deal, and I get my bill and what?
Right.
So I think we just pick a number and let the chips fall.
I think the point was just set a target.
Yeah, I think we're saying we're suggesting 2.3 is the target.
Well, we're
Including
kind of
capital,
setting 2.3.
including the
based on-
capital.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, and that's something that, if it comes down to it on town meeting floor, where that's what the voters decide is, no, we have to have $700 or less, maybe the dollar amount gets amended on town meeting floor, but I think we need to ask for what we really think we need to ask for.
I can tell you the numbers real quick. For 450 is 787.50. 500,000, 550,000, 962.50.
This is for 2.3 million.
This is for 2.3 million. For 650, it's $1,137.50.
What's a 750 house?
750 is $1,312.50.
1,000 over
$1,312.50.
It's basically 15%.
I know, yep.
I will,
Your taxes are gonna go up 15%.
Yep.
and
Plus, really, because
So-
it's above the 2.5.
Yeah, when I get home, I'll talk to my wife about the personal override we need.
And I will say that with the 2.3 million, the town of Hadley will still have the second lowest tax rate in the area. So Sutherland will still just be the only town below us at 1302. So
We're number one at a lot of other things.
So if this passes.
I don't know that this is where we need to be number one.
When does it go into effect, like when people see their first bill?
So as we understand, we still have to gather, I have an email out to our general counsel. She's on vacation, I think, until tomorrow. Asking several different questions, one of which was brought up. An excellent question from the finance committee, our last meeting, which is. What do we need for a vote count in order for this to pass? Is this like a 2/3? Is it a simple majority? Things like that. So I have several questions to our general counsel, that is one of them. As we understand it right now, I probably shouldn't even say until we confirm it, but as we understand it right now, we may end up having to get the full amount of revenue payments in 2 quarters as opposed to 4 quarters, if we ask for the override rate coming up in September. But again, not confirmed yet, still, we haven't done an override in this town in 40 years, so this is not something that we have.
Explain that again.
So if we ask for the override in September, we have essentially 2 quarters left. From what we've been told, the payments will have to be, the full annual payments will have to come in those 2 quarters.
And this is not unique to an override. This is what happens every year. So when we set the tax rate in fall, it's
No,
the
just
same
make sure
process.
people understand that
Yeah.
they're not paying it over 12 months, they're paying it over 6.
Right.
But then the first year,
The first,
just the first year,
Yeah.
then the next year, you're gonna see a big drop in your bill.
right.
So
those
one of
2
the
quarters
things that
whatever.
we're talking about kind of internally at town hall is, recognizing that for some people, not a hardship, for other people's potential serious, serious hardship. And are there some unique ways? So the collector's office is actually putting their heads together on that and seeing what we might be able to do.
So I don't think people it's kind of a lot, right? Because it's not just, this is the amount on top of your normal taxes. And if you only have half the time, then really your impact is double per month.
Yeah.
So
It is.
some people haven't really been able to prepare,
And in the last meeting, we were talking about on the town votes on that 1% on the room tax and the food tax, the state still has to certify this or accept this, right? So that's as if those increases aren't even part of revenues yet.
Well,
This-
I mean,
That's what Molly.
It's not likely to happen this year. That's what she said at the beginning.
Okay,
Not
all
happening.
right, okay, then I was just want to
Yeah,
make sure
that
of
was-
that.
Right.
That was the news coming out this morning.
Good.
But you
Had
get
it,
your
if it was still on the table, the answer to your question is yes. If they were getting ready to vote on this, had they passed it, then all that would be left is going to the Attorney General would pick the vote back up,
Right.
unpause it essentially, and then.
Which would help these
Validity.
numbers that we have right
Oh.
now, that would help.
Certainly.
So we're just kind of waiting for waiting.
Right, and
Got it.
And also remember, we're estimating what it would bring in. It might bring in less, it might bring in more, but it won't bring it in.
Until after all this is all done, so
Yep.
I understand it, I just wanted to make sure that, once it does, it will. Help out the town in a way, not in a way, but it will help out the time, but
And the same
just
with
not at
talked
this
about
time.
potential new growth down the road. With zoning changes, that'll help too, but we're not there, so.
So are we good on a number?
I have enough information that we can move forward. Thank you.
Okay. So that item is taken care of. Item number 2 with this board meeting is the DPW Water Department backup generator. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the situation down there, but the backup generator is currently a pile of parts.
Keep going.
There is an emergency declaration to repair it. And it is old and outdated and parts can't be had, and Scott and Chief Spanknable can correct me if I say anything wrong here. We thought that the right thing to do is try to rebuild it, but parts, like I said, are unavailable. And now the couple of members of the finance committee have talked to me about what their thoughts are on how we deal with this. So there's 2 issues that I'd like to address, and one is the cost of a new generator and are we able to purchase one? And then item number 2 is the policy that we deal with in terms of a situation like this where it starts out and it is an emergency, but it's turned into something that's taking months And in that time, we could have multiple meetings of the minds to try to figure out how to deal with something like this and possibly save the town grief and aggravation and money. So with that said, I know Shardul has a keen interest in this, so I'm gonna let you start.
Yeah, and Andy and I, kind of got interest in this because, we got wind that we're trying to rebuild, essentially a generator that's almost 20 years old. And it is probably at the end of its life, and that we're gonna spend fairly significant amount of money on something that is also not gonna be warranted because we have to make a custom piston. And there are just many things that, I guess my engineering mind and Andy's technical mind just didn't kind of jive with in terms of how this was proceeding. And so we went over and we went to take a look at this generator and to see what kind of state that it was in. And we got there, Jennifer.
You want me to start on one?
Yeah, essentially, the generator hasn't been running since February. It was taken apart by, I guess, somebody that we have been using. But the fact is that when you go and really look at the generator and its condition, the unit, when we looked it up, it was commissioned in 2007, but it failed out of service in 2015. It was rebuilt already, so this has already been rebuilt once. We saw cylinder heads, piston, turbo oil pans, and many hoses were disconnected or removed with the unit's enclosure, exposing vital machine internal sleeves, valves, pumps to ambient air and moisture. We can see there's water in the oil pan. There's also corrosion throughout many different parts. This contamination, a mixing of oil and coolant in the unit. In other words, I can go on and on. There's also some damage to the turbo. And this is a unit that there's no parts on. And we might be fixing one component, but we have no assurances that anything else, whether it's a water pump, whether it's a cam, whether it's a valve or anything else in this unit we might turn it on and it might start or run for 5 minutes and something else might go. And the last thing is that it'd be one thing if this was a kind of a non-essential piece of equipment that the town was operating. However, this is the backup generator for our entire town's water supply, not only for residential, but for commercial. And I just felt like we shouldn't be risking something this important. Andy and I agreed that we shouldn't be risking and taking a risk on really with very low level of assurances and confidence level that this thing is going to go and work once it's put back together, because we're looking to make a custom piston that hasn't been certified, that has no warranty, nothing. In other words, this thing might not even, you put it in there and there might be, if it's not balanced, if it's not the correct weight, correct whatever, the engine might fail right away because you're doing something that's not really commonplace. In a situation like this, you would go and replace all the pistons so that they're all the same weight, same condition, so that you have a balanced engine. In this case, we're not doing that.
We can't do that because the parts don't exist.
I mean, if we were to rebuild one piston, we should rebuild all the pistons.
Yeah,
And we're not, long story short, a replacement is really the only option for this. The replacement for this is $363,000, which we have a quote that includes the temporary service, which, by the way, we're paying about $2,200 a month more than the next lowest bid that we've received. And to Randy's point about the procedure, we've basically spent almost $12,000 to $15,000 more than we really had to, based on some of the decisions that were made. And so, with all that said, I really think that we need to reevaluate what we're gonna do with this. With Andy and I feel like we need to reevaluate what we need to do with this generator, because continuing with the way that things have been going and the decisions that have been made, we don't feel are in the best interest of the town.
Okay, has your committee talked about this, or is
No.
this just you and Andy?
We didn't have it on our agenda tonight, so we were gonna talk.
We did talk about it previously a little bit.
Little.
Yeah, and then they
Hmm.
went and did another visit, so.
Okay, David,
So I just think people need to fully understand that, that Hadley is famous for kind of cobbling things together and kicking the can down the road, and that's okay with some things, but this is the thing that keeps our water supply running when the power goes out, whether that's for an hour or for multiple days at a time. So, this is not the time to be cobbling things together and limping things along. So the idea that we're going to fix something that's 20 years old with no warranty or has a taillight warranty, as you would say, that's not the right direction. So I think the right direction would be to pull this out of water reserves, buy the generator that will last us for another 20 years and have a warranty, and stop wasting money in the meantime. So that would be my motion, that we pull the money out of water reserves and purchase the new generator.
And water reserves are about $1 million.
40 months.
Sorry, Linda, water reserves are about $1 million, $1 million
I
one.
was just gonna look that up. I don't think they're that high.
Trying to remember after the last, I think we did that before we started.
yeah,
And to also
Yeah,
echo
I think it's right
what
here, actually.
David's comments are, is that, that coupling of things and some of that, we need to go in
Where's that?
and change some of that mentality. And really, when big things like this happen, we really need a task force, include of different departments, the select board, the finance committee, whatever the subject matter experts of the issue that's in hand. And we really need to have a better approach at fixing these issues, because, not only could we have made a decision, in my opinion, in Amy's opinion, that could have been catastrophic, we're also wasting a ton of money on some of these, whether it's subcontractors and contracts that haven't been bid out properly, or we haven't received the best quotes that we could have received to go and save the town money and be financially responsible.
Yeah, I agree. Again, one of these positions that we've talked about previously, a lot of municipalities have centralized purchasing that would drive that, bringing the right people together with the right expertise to make those decisions. It's something that we don't have. And I just want to say, I think that our municipal employees, use the word mentality, that has been something that Hadley has practiced for a long time. But I think, to your point, it's like anybody that knows anything about cars, right? A car today compared to a car when back in 1980, where 5 people out of 6 could figure out how to fix basic things with carburetors and stuff like that. Forget it now. You pull it up, it's like, what are you looking at? So I agree with you that we need to move in that direction. The only concern I just have, David, just so you know, Linda just pulled the water reserve numbers, so our water reserves are just over 500,000.
507,000, yeah.
But we have, and DPW and the water has that ability to go and borrow.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
And in something like this, which has a 20-30 year life cycle, depending on what we purchase, it seems to me, especially for something as critical as this, I guess it's one thing, when we cobble things together, it's one thing if it's a tractor.
Right.
That's, cutting grass. It's another when it's the entire town's water department. And we just need to go and, I guess, take these items like this a lot more seriously. and not go and put the money where, and the resources towards them when we need to.
So, but the only issue I have with borrowing through the water department or putting something on the warrant for a capital expense like this is that this isn't something that we can risk, I guess, being turned down at a ballot vote. This is something we need no matter what. So either it has to come out of the general fund, it has to come out of water reserves, it has to come out of something that's a surefire thing because we can't operate a town with no water service. So how do we cover this expense without risking it getting shut down?
Yeah, can we take it out of reserves and then put it on the ballot to replenish? Maybe that's the way to do it,
Well-
to expedite it.
I mean, in order to remove from the enterprise accounts, it has to go to town meeting
But it
anyway.
does also,
It has
even
to-
with the emergency declaration.
Well, if you get an emergency, then,
Well, Mike already.
Mike's already declared.
oh, well.
Well,
The declaration was done with you.
Yeah,
You
okay,
know, if
so
a-
that's still.
you know, the declaration of emergency would allow you to forego a town meeting vote to utilize funds that are normally only accessed via town meeting? Does it?
I would have to reach out to estimates.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the
I'm
whole,
not-
sure, that's the whole point of the
Yeah.
emergency declaration.
well, I mean, as the first time we had this conversation, the way I understood it was that it freed up funds to utilize from other normally used operational budgets,
But not.
even if they weren't designated for that purpose.
but not a-
I don't know if it would supersede a town meeting vote. We should probably double check that and make sure.
Yeah, so there is a rental generator there now, so we are not without power
Right,
if we need it. So it seems to me that we do it right, to Mike's point, find out if we have to, I think, are we in favor of acquiring a new generator
Aye.
versus?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
This, our current what is our current water generator? This is the backup. What's the?
Electricity.
What's the primary one?
Electricity.
This is a backup.
this is a backup based power.
It's a backup for a generator.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a second
If you
generator.
lose power, you can still get water.
Just if it's up. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, if
gotcha.
we lose power,
Good question.
then we need this.
How much
So,
are we paying monthly
just
for the
gonna-
one that we're
just-
renting?
Sorry.
We're paying,
That's the anchor.
yeah, I think we're paying $7,300,
$7,697.94.
73.
Per month.
I think it's 7,377 compared to, we have a quote. We have a quote from another vendor, which is 5,113.
Right.
We have,
All right,
we can
let's
put it up.
not get into the argument about that because it is what it is. We
No,
gotta try to.
It was
No,
just,
it-
no, I wasn't gonna argue that. I was just gonna say like if that's what we're paying, then, it would benefit us to take care of this sooner.
Oh,
rather
yeah,
than later.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So if the emergency declaration allows for you to supersede a town meeting vote, Mike can get us the answer on that. Then you could absolutely take care of it sooner. If it does not allow that and you still have to bring it to town meeting vote, then you have two options. You can put it on the warrant for the override meeting in September at the special town meeting. Or if you don't want to overload that meeting, you can put it on the standard October special town meeting.
Mhm.
Bear in mind, you can't order a machine until you have the funds to actually pay for the machine, and then it takes 18 to 20 weeks or so for it to be built.
So this is helpful. Here's the actual language. And it says the option provides immediate spending authority until other financing sources such as emergency borrowing or appropriations from available funds can be put in place to cover the spending.
Perfect,
But I think,
perfect.
And
So we
just-
can use,
yeah, sure, but I mean, I think.
use water reserve.
We
Yeah.
could use, sounds like we could use water reserves. And I just want to clarify, David mentioned not risking with a ballot. When you borrow for water, it does not need to go to a ballot. That's only when it's general fund borrowing. So the town meeting that would approve it for water reserves, it would be the same as approving it for borrowing, although it would be a 2/3 vote for borrowing.
So
That
could
would be
we,
an option.
could we take it out of the general fund now with, or just somewhere else in the budget with the intention that we, make a transfer from water reserves back in to cover that expense later in the year?
That's what it sounds like to me, that you can use water reserve.
Or you can you could actually take it,
Take it
David, from
from
water
water
reserves and then put this
Okay.
on a warrant at town meeting to pay water reserves back.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so do we need to take a formal?
I would think
So
so.
I think
And
that
is
was,
there any opinion to the contrary, just before we vote on this?
No, because we'd be paying $92,000 a year for our rental.
Scott, you got anything to add?
Good evening, everyone. What I have to add is we've been going around with this since March 15th. And we've have gotten nowhere. And unfortunately, I think we exhausted all our options. Replacement is the only option. I have the one quote, a while back, the town administrator, we were talking, and we wanted a firm quote. So I reached out to our electrician, and he works with a generator company. So they gave us this quote. The quote is signed, sealed, delivered, 100% installed, modifications to the pad, etc. This is what they're recommending for a generator. And they're giving us a rental at no cost. So we would save $7,000 whatever dollars a month just by pulling the trigger on the signing a contract.
Okay, so you're fine with us doing this?
I'm fine with you do it. We have to. We don't have a choice. We've tried this piston thing. I reached out to multiple people. Myself, the piston isn't available. Making one has its probably disadvantages and advantages. It's not really the right thing to do.
So since then, we haven't paid anything for rental on this generator because it's the same company that's gonna be installing a new generator for us?
So the company that would be taking over would bring their own generator. This one will be returned and
Got it.
that would be over.
I was just wondering because if this had happened, and I remember vaguely that something was set up at a generator at the beginning of the winter, and you're talking March, like you were talking about, of a goose chase trying to find all these things, that it's now taken an extra 4 more months for us to actually bring to this, and an extra $30,000 when it comes to rental. When it comes to stuff like this with select board or finance committee, we need to get right down to it, to not wasting time, of expenses, especially when it comes to rental fees. If something like this, it's gotta come to, on an agenda, putting it onto the board and say, okay, in March, making the decision, saving 40 grand just in rent.
Yeah, so what I'd like to.
Getting it right down to it, saying, we need this is what's going on.
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve this, but before I do, could I also, maybe for a future agenda topic, when we're talking about internal procedures, could we come up with a proposal about how we will maybe formalize a methodology to handle these situations? And we can talk about how to do that to address the concerns.
yeah, no, I mean, when I was listening to Cheryl talk earlier, I completely agree with that. I heard Peter, the end of Peter Waldner, earlier, the finance committee. Talking about something like that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Doing this is that you need to tell us where those guardrails are, right? So, like,
Exactly.
we have to work on, I can't guess what you want to know about what you don't.
I don't think anybody's.
No, I know, I'm
Fingers-
just saying,
I'm saying
I think it's a great idea, we need direction on that.
Well, we're
And
gonna,
that's
that's
why-
to Molly's point, and I was going to say the same thing. We put on another meeting, an agenda item to discuss the current policy and how it can change so that if we have a situation like this, or who knows what, we'll work through the minutia of it, that we get together as quickly as possible and make some decisions rather than drag it out.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea.
I mean, I'll second Molly's motion, but,
I didn't make it yet, hang on.
oh, all right, go ahead.
So I'll make a motion that we move forward with the purchase of the replacement generator under the emergency declaration provisions that are already in place. Okay. Second. You can second it now.
I'll second that, and I'll say that, it could be as simple as, for disaster declarations or emergency declarations, I should say, that it's the select board at the next regularly scheduled select board meeting as an agenda item, just so that way we can discuss whatever the situation is, if it requires money or et cetera. But something like that could be on a future agenda to talk about.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing I was just gonna ask, is looking at the quote, what isn't included in it is overtime or premium labor as well as engineered or staff drawings. So I don't know if that's negotiable or we should set a cap that we're willing to.
That's pretty standard language with our contractor. They don't usually work outside of those hours for, say, an install like this is,
Okay,
it's just
this is pretty cut and dry then.
pretty cut and dry.
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask an ignorant question, is under the circumstances, can it go out to bid? I know it doesn't have to, but should it?
I think the declaration of emergency actually allows you to skip it.
Okay.
For lack of a better.
But it could be.
Right,
But
so my,
right,
yeah,
could
so my
be.
question is, should we? Even though we don't have to, So, can we or should we? Say
Yeah.
again,
With procurement, there becomes a certain point
where it's not. an
where it's no
emergency?
longer an emergency
Okay.
and we are learning on the custom.
All right, well, that's what I wanted to know, so thank you.
Yeah.
So with this though, I think if we went out to bid. Obviously, our electrician came in, looked at all this equipment and sized this generator, et cetera, for us. If we were going to go out to bid, I think we would have to hire someone to. Do all this work and give us a formal, spec it out and all that.
Time, more money.
More time, more money.
Has the tear down from it being in February, with it just sitting there in parts and pieces, has the service of the diagnosis, has it been paid for already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, technically we only have 2 more days to accept this.
okay.
So motion made.
Okay, motion made by Molly, second by David. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Egan,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes,
and Parsons.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing it up.
yes, thank you very much. I believe that concludes.
No, hang on.
No,
We never went over the dates
Yeah.
at the end
Oh.
of the
okay,
presentation.
Oh, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, year-end transfers must be done.
Yeah.
Too. Dates are important, but year-end transfers are very important. Yeah. I can share the dates. We, as Mike said earlier, we did want to talk about shifting the one from the 29th to the 30th because Lauren will have full numbers for us on the 30th. So if we're prepped and ready, we can share.
How many? This is July.
31st?
31st.
Give us a day, yeah.
Sure. As long as y'all run without me, I'm good with that, but if you want me.
Does the 30th and 31st in the evening work better or?
31st is better.
Sorry,
31st works for them.
I like the call, we're gonna pick the 31st, it's pretty good.
I'm glad someone does.
So that'll be the 31st, August 7th, August 18th, and August 21st. And the one on August 21st will be at 2 p.m. here at the senior center. Actually, all of these are at the senior center. It's just, they start at July 31st, will start at 6 p.m. August 7th will start at 7 p.m. August 18th will start at 6 p.m. and August 21st, as I said, is at 2 p.m. And these will all be going up on the town website tomorrow.
So we're doing all Thursdays and a Monday.
That might be how it broke out.
Well,
Just
the
a
first
little-
one's gonna be a Tuesday.
Yeah,
So,
Just that we- first then, so.
okay, so it's gonna be Thursday, Monday.
Isn't that a song?
Thursday,
Yeah,
It's
Close.
right, hold on, so it's
Thursday,
Thursday, Monday
can't touch that day.
and Thursday. So the August 18th and 21st are on the same week, but a Monday and a Thursday. But we're not having any of the week of the 11th.
Correct, the one on the 21st is, they're all gonna be here, we were gonna try to bounce them around to different buildings just to kind of get, you know. Just to give people different places to go, but we realized that this room has all the AV equipment we're gonna need, it's also the largest room. That we have as far as meetings, so we're gonna have all the meetings here, we picked the 21st, we picked an afternoon time. We usually do coffee with a cop on the third Thursday of every month. So we borrowed that date so that a lot of the seniors can come to that afternoon meeting because a lot of them are in the building anyway. So that's the only reason for that. The rest of them are in the evening time.
But there's still gonna be donuts, right?
I'll bring you donuts, Paul. I will stop and I'll get you donuts.
He really likes it.
No, it doesn't like me.
are those dates acceptable to everyone?
And how many I was gonna.
That's what we said
we were-
last time, so that's
We're
what's in
gonna
my
post
calendar.
every one of
In
them.
my calendar.
Required to do any, we're doing these because we want to educate the public,
Right.
inform the public and help them.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
decisions.
No, I meant like how many are we required to go to?
Oh.
None of you are required.
Yeah,
We're
we're
gonna
gonna-
post them all so that if you show up in a quorum, great. The more the merrier. We'd love, we'd love to have as many of both FinCom and select board as we can get. But, you don't have to all come to every one of them. They're going to see, the public is going to see, hopefully, the same information each and every time. I want to make sure it's very standardized so everybody sees and understands the same thing. You're basically here to help explain it.
Okay, we good with that? And just when I thought you guys were gonna leave, wrong. Item 2.3 fiscal year 25 year-end budget transfers. So we're going to review end of year budget transfers for 2025. And Ms. Linda is the lead on that.
Yes, so Lori, our new accountant, Lori Delio, has been working on those for a couple of days. We really just finished the last warrant, for 25.
And just so you know, we don't have anything in board docs, so.
Okay, and I don't have it either.
All right, so just gonna say, okay. I just wanna make sure.
I have it
I'm not
all.
looking at anything.
When you looking over my shoulder?
Do you have something on it?
Give me just 2 seconds.
Yes, I do, but it's not on the computer.
I was looking for it too. The year-end transfers are, the towns, the select board and finance committee vote together to move money between budgets to clean up any budgets that ran in the negative. About 5 of them, I think, are within a department. So if you recall, at town meeting, we vote a department budget by salaries and by expenses. So I think 5 or 6 of them are moving it, mine's one of them, treasurers, moving it from salaries to expenses. But it still has to be voted on because it's a change from how the town originally voted it. So that takes care of a number of them.
I'm gonna just bump it up in size for everyone.
Yeah, mostly what we did was we went through and found the negatives and went through and found the positives and matched them up, so. That's pretty much what it is. So, let's see.
And I have forms for y'all to sign, I'll pass it to you. Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't sign till you vote them, but you wanna see.
And we,
Yeah, I already said that.
we're just saying like 2 line items there.
Yep.
She just wanted to see your name, so you felt good.
Sorry, I don't know why.
Yeah.
That's because I set my thing.
Okay, so the budget on the left is the account it's coming from. So those are good duties, they had some extra money in their budget. Select board, dispatch, reserve fund, but that's why we need reserve fund in the budget, because that got used up. And then the ones on the right are the ones that ran short, you'll see a number of them from benefits and insurance in there. Legal Snow and ice is probably the biggest one that ran over by over 100,000, that got covered out of a couple of different places. Health insurance was a biggie also. And the others are very small.
So can I just ask
Yeah.
on the legal, and actually it's probably more for Mike.
Mm.
Can I assume that that was really on the HR side of things?
For the legal?
Yeah.
We had a lot of labor costs that
That's
we
what I
had to deal
thought,
with
yeah.
going through all the union negotiations.
Right.
And litigation.
Yeah.
Let's just wrap up that too.
Yep.
Not for snow and ice in their points.
Because it was $100,000, over $100,000, so it's divided between two different accounts.
So 72 from reserve fund and then
I
the
see.
other one from.
Yeah, health
Right.
was- Health was in there. Too.
No.
I guess what we gotta make a motion to
Slow
approve
it down.
it's a controversial. Yeah. It was after.
It seems like a lot of transfers
Yeah.
for year, yeah.
Was there
It
one
is.
building maintenance expense? Was there one big thing or was it just?
No,
a bunch
it
of
was
little
from, well, that's all within building maintenance, went from salaries to expenses. No, I don't think it was one big thing.
So is this gonna eat up?
You know, building maintenance expense, do they include,
I just didn't know if it was just
Yeah.
one big thing that.
There's-
Were.
Scott can probably
Give me a
answer
bit,
that. He's
you
right there.
remember, Scott?
There was overages in a lot of different areas with equipment problems, but one of the bigger things there is the house at 230
Yes.
Fuller Middle Street that we acquired. And we did a lot of work there cleaning it out and disposing of stuff and getting it to kind of where the point is, and we didn't have a budget for that,
Right.
so
Okay,
we, negative spent building. Maintenance, hindsight, I guess, when we bought the house, we should have had a cushion up money to. Empty it out and,
Yeah.
the things that went on with that, but we didn't.
That's.
So the next, the total is $181,962.80.
Can I, get just in the spirit of as we're talking about going forward.
going forward. We've started that already.
This is something, I know I've asked for it in the past and then was convinced that. There's no point wasting time looking backwards because that year's gone and we should just be looking forward and spending our time on that. But I think it would be useful to do like a budget to actual at the end of the fiscal year. Just so we can understand, here's what was budgeted and here, at a high level, not
Get that
granular,
in the spreadsheet.
Yeah, we-
Usually,
yeah.
it's always been in the spreadsheet, shows
But-
what was
with an
budgeted,
explanation.
with an
With
explanation.
an explanation, and not like every single line item, but pick variances over like, I don't know, 10,000 or 25,000.
So we started a new account on July 1.
Yep.
And she didn't make these payments that went into the negative. And so, I mean, she doesn't have a lot of background on it and I was, and I didn't either. So I know that there's a better way that we should be doing this. We should be taking more time and we should be aware of it. I've already talked with her about, we need some kind of alarm, and I think we need to talk to department heads about this too. When their budget is going to go over, at least he needs to be brought to someone's attention. I'm not sure it wasn't, or I'm not sure they were always aware of it. It wasn't a good year for getting monthly reports from the accountant. There's not much we can, and honestly, the insurance ones, they all happened in the last month. They all were good the end of May, then you make one more big chunky payment and 5 accounts suddenly go in the negative, there's really nothing we can do there. If there's any that you're particularly concerned about, I know it's a big number, but you'll see where they're going to aren't something, I don't think it is all reflective of the department head losing track of spending.
And I'm not talking about, that this is something unique to municipal accounting, this concept of these line item transfers. I'm talking about just from a budget management standpoint, going back and looking at.
You want to see all of them. You want to see now what you receive it in January with the new budget, which is the actuals, but you want to see it now, the
Need that
budgeted and
explanation.
actuals.
Right, I mean, it's like even the department,
What kind of explanations?
So,
You mean just for the transfers or for all of the departments? Why I was under 50,000, why I was over 50,000?
So like for building operations in particular, that's the 190 accounts. I can tell you, you would like an explanation that says this has gone over due to electrical costs exceeding budgeted amounts.
this is under because of a vacancy of a position
Right.
for 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
That, I mean, that's.
So you want to see under also, not just the transfers?
Yeah, it's called
Okay.
like a fluctuation analysis, so it's just, this is what we budgeted, this is what we actually expended once the books are closed, this is why. And again, only for a threshold, not for every single, you know,
What's the
officer.
threshold?
Yeah.
Well, what threshold?
Oh, I mean, normally it's a percentage, like, I mean, I would say for the municipal budget, maybe anything over like 50,000.
So okay.
I mean, you know,
So this
not
is something probably the
random.
department head would do.
Okay.
Want it from a department head.
Yeah, they're the ones who should be.
Oh, it was great when Scott just told us that meeting.
Right.
Well, we wouldn't know that, or I won't remember that when I go back to look.
Yeah.
again. It made sense though, because we don't budget. for
No, I got a
that.
question, when it comes to Scott, now is that 100,000, is that? More or less more salt, is that overtime pay? You know, cause, you know, we see the trucks and I know everybody loves seeing the road being. You know, clean as can be, is there a certain time saying, okay, anything over an inch or 2 inches, then you send the guys out? Or is it okay, there's an inch of snow, let's send everybody out, because if there's an extra $100,000. Whether if it's on time and on snow removal, or should I say, salt, is there a way of cutting things back? Cause everybody likes to be proud of Hadley having perfect roads, other towns might have 2 or 3 inches, they're waiting for the storm to pass, and then they do their cleanup. You know, is there something, what's your rules when it comes to the snow removal and salting? After 2 inches, you guys go out, after 3 inches? What makes your number of going that there's an extra $100,000 on snow and ice removal?
So the, obviously salt and labor combined is the overage. Obviously, we started off winter relatively slow, and then as winter went on, became pretty intense. We were out quite a bit. I have all the documentation at the office. But as far as the salt goes, I had a meeting with Mike and Linda. Believe it was late February, early March, when the salt shed was getting pretty low. And about the overage, because we knew then we were over of, do we roll the dice and not get salt? And potentially run out if we have, you know, more of this icing storm, or are we prepared and get salt? And our decision was to get salt.
That was like 35,000, I think.
Yeah. And put it in the salt shed, it's in there, it's covered, it's not gonna.
No,
go
I'm not
bad.
questioning that, we need, we, you know, we need it, we had some,
So-
nobody
Yeah,
had
yeah,
salt removal
yeah.
from any store during that week.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering, I guess while I got you, when we're talking about costs and ice and stuff, you know, what makes you, in you sending out all the guys out, is there a 2 inch limitation? No ice, just snow removal, 2 inches, okay, let's go out.
So around the 3 inch mark, we try to start hitting the main roads, not secondaries, main roads.
Okay.
In the hills.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll let it pile up again to that 3 inch mark again.
Okay,
The 6 inch mark, we have to start kind of going into some of the side areas. Because people are starting to get hung up and stuck and etc. But we don't do, for say, a curb to curb plow. We go in one side, we come back out the other, just enough that if somebody has to get in and out, or public safety or whatever, there's some kind of path. From the hours, say, of 11 p to 4-ish a.m., we go to a very limited, you know, response.
Okay.
We kind of, there's very little traffic at those hours, etc. So we kind of, you know, do the minimal within that time frame, just because if it's piling up, whatever, chances are there's no issues because there's really no one out on the road.
right, schools are closed
Right,
anyway,
right.
2 days before.
Yeah, so at the 4 o'clock time frame is when we really start doing something prepare for people to go to work, et cetera, because obviously it takes us some time to get around
I
town.
understand. I just didn't know, when,
Yeah.
you know, when you set your guidelines as to when you start going out there, to know what our expenses are as to.
Yeah.
Saying the roads, but
Well,
that
since
that was just, you know,
you
curious
live
as
on
to.
Middle Street,
I
I'm
do.
on a cul-de-sac, so I'm calling you if I get stuck.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, and all our trucks are calibrated
Call me, I
to
got a small.
a proper, you know. 250 pounds per single lane mile spec that's, you know, an industry standard, so we're not wasting any material. It's just this year, especially with the ice, it was really bad.
Yeah.
We
Right.
went through a lot of material.
Agreed.
I will say that, you know, from our properties this year, our budget was blown out of the
Yeah.
water. And there was that one storm that was like 2 days.
Right.
And
Wouldn't stop.
wouldn't stop, and what cost us a lot of time, we do it ourselves, was just managing the snow and just moving it from one place to another. Because we were just running out of space on our parking lots, to move a lot of the snow.
Yeah, so mine got full.
No, so I was just asking is, you know, what's your, you know, when it comes to sending the guys out, filter around that. I kind of figured what it was.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah, we're
people
not,
do ask that.
we're not the state, we're not plowing off every time, you know, it's salted, that's not.
I'm on
Just one
Shore
pass
Road.
for-
I know that.
Yeah.
Me
Okay,
too.
thank
All right,
you.
motion to approve the line item budget transfers as presented. Okay.
Okay, motion by Molly, second by Amy. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes,
and Parsons.
Yes.
and you guys do the
I'll make
same.
a
Yes.
motion to approve the year-end transfers.
Second.
Okay, are we,
You don't have to do a roll call vote, y'all in person.
all right, all in favor? Aye.
I do need every member here from both boards to sign both sheets,
Both sheets.
just to make sure.
Just keep passing it around.
Please.
What do you wanna do with the absent people?
You have a majority here, so it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the next,
The audience there.
I don't know, the next meeting, but in the next few weeks,
I'm special.
Why are
I'll
you
do
so
it.
special?
Oh, yeah.
They need to.
I just,
Oh, you need to? Okay.
often when we have signatures like this, people sometimes sign in the wrong place. This is just security.
so I'll be doing a year-end financial report, those ones that I do, and I'll include year-end overages and underages. Underages? In that report.
Most time taken by.
Moving along here. We're good.
Sorry.
Okay, we're gonna wait. So you guys are,
Oh, well,
we're done.
it's your turn.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the finance committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you all.
We'll be seeing more of each other.
Bye, Jill.
As long as,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay, what do we got next here?
Departmental update, the elections. Yeah.
All right, yeah, then,
There's a gentleman here maybe for circle.
yeah, they're on, let's see some tie and bond, so we'll do that.
They're here for there's two different groups, time bond here for two different
Okay.
projects.
All right, so let's go back to appointments, item 2.1, departmental update, police and communications. Chief Administrator, please, and I need you to beckon the police chief in you to come forward.
Okay. All right, in the interest of time, I will do this as quickly as I can because we still have a lot left on our agenda. But as you know, several departments over the course of the last several months, when Molly was chair quite a while ago, she had suggested that you bring departments in to give just kind of a quick update as to what's been going on in their agency. Never got a chance to do the police and dispatch. And then, as you recall, there was a public comment at the last meeting that allowed me to kind of address some questions that the individual had, and I probably should have addressed them sooner, but here we are. So I'll just give a basic update on police and dispatch. So as we stand currently, we are technically fully staffed. Unfortunately, that does mean that we have 3 people in the academy right now. So we are not going to have 3 individuals working the road for quite a while. They have 5.5 months or so in the academy, and then probably 4 to 6 months in training. For those that aren't aware, we currently have 14 full-time police officers and sergeants who are working the road at any given time. We usually run between 2 and 3 police officers per shift. And we have 3 administrative police officers, including myself and 2 lieutenants. The lieutenants do often work patrols to cut back on overtime, especially with the fact that we are short 3 individuals right now. Just to give a little background as to what the rest of the configuration of our department looks like. We do have a civilian domestic violence and sexual assault advocate, and we also have an embedded co-response clinician who responds with officers to mental health and substance abuse calls. Both of those programs are on grant, and so we don't pay any money for that. We have 2 full-time detectives. As many of you know, we have high instances of retail theft in our community, and those individuals are also responsible for investigating, unfortunately, over the course of this past year, multiple sexual assaults, child abuse cases, and they investigated 2 motor vehicle homicides over the course of the past year. In pulling the detectives out of the patrol function, it was a very difficult decision for us, but with the amount of calls that need to be investigated fully, it's really kind of a non-negotiable item for us. As far as dispatch goes, we have had, unfortunately, as Lauren knows, in filling all of the positions around town, we have had an open position for several months. We are starting our second hiring process because we were unable to fill that vacancy the first time around. So everyone is aware, we have 5 full-time dispatchers with that 1 vacancy, and we do have a dispatch supervisor to round out a total of 6 full-time dispatchers. And we have 4 extraordinarily dedicated part-time dispatchers who fill in for us to kind of augment the shifts that we have, across the board. Our dispatchers are now working, they are now trained and are handling EMD, which is emergency medical dispatch. Our dispatchers are trained to essentially help people perform things like CPR over the phone. That's the easiest way that I can explain it. And as far as the police department goes, to round out that description as to what's been going on, we are currently in the self-assessment phase of accreditation. We have been working to slowly fulfilling those requirements, both policy and otherwise. And we are getting to the point where we're prepared, nearly prepared to apply for our full certification and accreditation. If Jennifer, I don't know if you can put up the stats that I have attached under or docs, but one of my lieutenants put together this fairly easy to read stat chart for the last 4 years. There's 2021, 22, 23, and 24. And these are the stats that we pull and that we put into the town report every single year. These are actually pulled directly from our town reports from 2021 to 2024. As you can see, there is a steady increase since 2021, except for 2022, in calls for service, which include calls coming into our dispatch center for assistance, whether it be police, fire, ambulance, or self-initiated calls when it comes to traffic stops, property checks, and things like that. Reports taken. These are reports that can include anything from, say, a disturbance or something out of the ordinary that the officer wants to document. There are also potentially crimes where an individual is not yet identified, and we have no one to charge at that point in time. So those could potentially be criminal charges waiting investigation. crash reports always, unfortunately, increases and or fluctuates around that 300 to 400 mark. Route 9 doesn't help with that situation. And as I mentioned before, one of the questions that came up, which is an excellent question that was brought up by one of our residents, was the number of arrests and or criminal charges. Actually, we'll quickly just jump to traffic citations. As you can see, there's a significant increase each and every year for traffic citations, and it kind of works with the crash situation. We see more traffic on Route 9, more citations issued. But when it comes to arrests and or criminal charges, for those of you who don't know, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was asked to be on a steering committee by the Executive Office of Public Safety. The Undersecretary of Forensic Technology asked me to be on a steering committee when I was the president of the Western Mass Chiefs. The steering committee was for a crime bill that was written in 2019. Part of the crime bill required a change in the way that data is collected in the Commonwealth. And previous to this data change, the idea behind it is to standardize the way that data is collected so that it can be anonymized and then put on a public website that can be searched. You can search it by department, by county, things like that. You could search anything from number of arrests, criminal charges, warrants issued, even criminal citations. And you'll notice that in 2021, 2022, and 2023, our arrests and or criminal charges fluctuated anywhere in the area of 300 to 350-ish, 290 somewhere around there, arrests and or criminal charges. You'll notice in 2024 that changed. The title of that listing changed from arrests or criminal charges to arrest reports, and the second one below that is applications for criminal complaint. The reason that changed is because that was the first year that this new data collection, it's called cross-tracking, went into place. And so those two numbers would normally have been added together as they were in all of the other years. So that's somewhere in the area of about 250 arrests and or criminal charges if you read it the same way. The other thing to take into consideration is that the incident reports, which is activity which could result in criminal charges, jumped by over 200 reports written.
And traffic citations went up by 400?
Exactly. So again, shame on me for not recognizing the fact that the way that the data is collected did change. I probably should have made mention of it. However, when you put those numbers together and you factor in the fact that there are probably dozens, if not more, criminal charges pending from those 200 plus incident reports that could potentially still be investigated. The numbers from 21, 22, 23, and 24 are commensurate with each other. They are fairly equal.
So I was actually wondering for a single, like if it was one event, could it be like categorized in multiples of these? As in like if there was like a crash that led to an incident report that led to an arrest, like would it be counted as like 3 in here or like 1?
Well, so they're all different things.
Right,
So they
okay.
all fall into their own category. The only category that they all fall into is calls for service. So all of them are generalized under calls for service. But to use your example, if a crash occurred, that's one crash. If the driver was arrested for drunk driving, that's one arrest.
So they're mutually exclusive.
They're mutually exclusive, but they could potentially have come from the same incident, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. So that's just kind of a really rough breakdown. And again, the question was great. I wish I could have addressed it, but it was public comment at the time and we're not allowed to. But like I said, should have been something that I made note of when we did the 2024 town report. But again, we'll make sure that we do better when we break those numbers out in the future.
And just because the data is not necessarily embedded or not obvious here. Just as the police chief, do you have any particular concerns about trends in town? Do we have more or less violent crime? Is it pretty consistent year to year?
I would say consistent. The only thing that we see or are seeing an increase as far as fluctuation goes is traffic complaints. We get traffic complaints because of Route 9 construction, because people are trying to find any possible way around Route 9. So we do get complaints of traffic issues in neighborhoods and things like that. But as far as crime in general goes, it is fairly steady. Again, we did pull 2 individuals from our patrol function and make them full-time detectives because we have enough incidents going on across town that it requires significant and serious investigation. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're seeing spikes. It just means that we've seen enough that there's just too much of that workload being placed on a patrol officer without the specific and proper training to investigate those crimes.
Oh, can I just ask, kind of ancillary to this, but I think we're okay. Back in May, there was a conversation with Mitch about the use of the signboard. And at the time, there was a specific request from folks on Rocky Hill Road. I can give you their address later, but even with the flashing, signs, they said that it was obvious to them the impact that larger signboard had in a positive way of slowing people down. And Mitch at the time had said we have the Asparagus Festival coming up and something else, but that after that, that you might look to deploy that back to Rocky Hill Road. So I don't know if that's something you could just talk to Mitch about.
Absolutely.
Remember that conversation?
Yes. Yes. All right. Is that it, sir?
That's it.
Great, thank you. Moving along, we're going to the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda this evening are minutes from June 4th, June 18th, and July 2nd, 2025. Agreement between the Town of Hadley and Pioneer Valley Planning Commission for professional services for the Town of Hadley Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Declaration of surplus property from the fire department for equipment less than $500. List attached, and letter of support for the MBI Digital Equity Plan Implementation Grant Support Letter.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Molly, second by Amy. All those in favor? Roll call, yeah, sorry.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes,
and Parsons.
Yes.
Thank you.
all right. You're welcome, Alex. Thank you. Next up is public comment. Anybody here for public comment? Okay. Seeing none. Move on to old business. Item 5.1, ADU compliance, water, sewer. And
Scott?
After our last meeting on this, I went back and changed a couple things and sent it out for review, and I really didn't hear any comment back. I did also reach out to Dennis Phil, the plumbing inspector, about what I proposed, and he thought it was pretty good language that.
That's unambiguous from his standpoint.
Right.
He would be able.
Yeah.
okay, so unless I am missing something, I do not see that document.
It's there under public content, water and sewer rate. Oh, wait,
It is, I
Sorry.
don't see it.
ADU.
I don't see it. I see the old regs. And I know what Scott did, and I don't see it here, and I agree with what he's wants to do, but I don't believe it's here and I don't think we can vote on it because of that.
It's not connected. I think, Mike, we might have overthrown each other on stuff.
Is this the water and sewer rate public hearing policy?
No.
No,
ADU water and sewer guidelines.
Can you put it back up?
yes, give me just one moment, please. Can you tell them about it while I'm pulling it up, please?
Yeah, so ADU water and sewer guidelines, everything's in there that we talked about, using the original water service unless waived by the commissioners, which we discussed. Same with, all the sizing determined by the plumbing code. Dennis agreed that we should not get involved in any kind of sizing, put that on the, builder to, seek a plumber and do the mathematical equations on that. If a second meter is requested, if we just want the proper manifold built in the proper location, so we're not minusing any reads, so everything's going through the meter in the proper location into the proper unit. If there's a T outside the foundation, we would be requiring a meter pit or pits, depending on how it's situated. If they can't tie the plumbing inside the house and they have to get it outside the house, we wanna make sure we have pits in the proper locations. The sewer line, the same thing, existing sewer line shall be utilized unless waived by the commissioners. Sizing determined by the plumbing code, interior sewer connections by the plumbing code. Any exterior connection subject to approval by the Hadley DPW. All connections inspected by DPW, all inspection fees applicable. And the town of Hadley will not provide or produce any special billing of water and sewer usage.
I said this, I agree with it 100%. We just need to see it.
It was there and I cannot pull it up.
Do you have it in an email from Scott?
That's what I was doing right now.
Oh, Kim has something.
Kim?
Yes. Oh, did you unmute me?
No, I did not.
Jennifer, can you scan this like with a cell phone and send it to yourself?
Cause this is basically what you had before, and then you just made.
I cleaned it
Yeah,
up and,
right.
made some changes to it.
Yeah.
I'm just more worried with the, that it's not here for the public. That matter?
This is the one I have, Scott, that's showing up. That's not the one you want, don't believe. That's not the one I sent you, Randy.
Uh-huh.
Do you have it in your?
That's not correct.
You expect me to find it in my email?
Say, if you want to for your sharing.
Can you mute everybody that's not David Field?
Yeah, Kim's not muted.
I'm muted.
I sent them both one note, I'm not cleaning up. Y'all both received the updated one from me, right?
I just took a
Just
picture of it and
something.
emailed it to you. Not the shadow, but
Yeah, as I thought we had it.
It was,
I remember.
I can't find it, but
It got archived, maybe.
yeah, I'm just having a hard time searching it right here, but I'm gonna share right now.
Okay, so that's what Scott just read to us.
Yeah.
So it's on, now it's on the public record.
Yep.
So I feel good about that. So,
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the, let's go. The ADU. Water and sewer compliance guidelines policy.
motion by Molly, second by Amy, roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote, Bill,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
and Parsons.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, new business, item 6.1, speed hump request, Highland Circle. A resident from Highland Circle has requested speed humps for the roadway. Is said resident with us?
Sir,
Yep, there is Daniel.
hi, can you hear
Hi.
me? Hi there, how you doing?
Just
Sorry.
tell us your name and address, please.
Hi there, my name is Daniel Casal. My address is 4 Highland Circle. And I am one of, I believe, a few of the residents of Highland Circle on this call tonight.
So tell us what you're asking for, please.
Yeah, so actually, coming in from the police chief's comments just a few minutes ago, it's a good lead in to why this kind of came up. I know that the police have been doing a really good job kind of trying to keep things settled and contained, especially on Rocky Hill right off Highland Circle here. With all the Route 9 traffic, we've all been subject to the pains of that. Unfortunately, in sort of that whole process, over the course of this time, people have sort of discovered Highland Circle as a cut through of sorts over kind of coming to and from the north and south of Hadley. And we've seen traffic pick up here a lot, and people drive very quickly because they quickly realize it's not a shortcut. So in the last 6 or so years that I've lived here, we've probably seen a turnover of half the properties on this street, including a whole bunch of families moving in, which is really awesome, a lot more vibrant. Unfortunately, we don't have any sidewalks on any of the streets around ours or the surrounding streets. So the only place for children to, travel to and from their friends' houses or play at all is just in the roadway. And on top of all that, Highland Circle has, I don't know if you're all familiar with the street, but it has a sort of blind corner that has just a bunch of large bushes on it. So people come really quickly from both directions on that. And it's just a matter of time until something kind of horrible happens. I'm also a lieutenant in the call force in the Hadley Fire Department. So I'm acutely aware of some of the accidents that happen in this town, especially some of the traffic incidents we've had recently this past year with all the construction. So I'm just trying to see if this is something the town is willing to discuss. I've talked to a bunch of the residents on this street, and everyone is hopeful that we can do something about that just to help slow down some of that through traffic. Or maybe discourage using it as a shortcut, just to keep things a little safer for the kids on our street here.
Is there a sign?
No, there's no signs on the street at all.
I don't, so there's nothing like, cause I'm looking at it and it's like a Y. So there should be a sign that says like
Yeah.
no outlet or like. dead
There's
end.
no, because there's connections on Rocky
Like
Hill
right
and
here. From
there's
like-
connections on Rocky Hill and Huntington, both connect to Highland Circle to a cul-de-sac. So there's no indication that there's a dead end because technically you can cut through. But there's nothing to discourage people from using it as a shortcut.
Right, but I mean, like if you're not paying attention and you try to follow this, like you end up.
So
You're
one of the things, unfortunately, one of the things that happens often on the street is people will do that. They'll rush through thinking it's a cut through and they'll get to the cul-de-sac and then speed out even further because now their shortcut is a long cut. And the biggest problem here, I think, is Route 9 has, as the police chief was just saying, has sort of helped people discover new throughways through the side streets of Hadley. And unfortunately, Highland Circle has become a really popular one to shoot through in people's attempts to get around the Route 9 area. So all we're really requesting is like a speed hump on either side of that Y, just to help encourage people to slow down as they come through that blind corner to hopefully prevent a kid from getting hit while they're riding their bicycle.
I hate speed humps because then it's another thing that the DPW has to take care of, and it's also something else that they have to pay attention to when they're plowing. But but is there like a sign, like a no, not a throughway? Cause I think we have those on like Railroad. Do we have one of those on like Railroad Street?
I believe the precedent was set on North Lane, with the speed humps for pretty much the exact same reason. And that's sort of where we got the idea of this request.
Yeah,
I like speed bumps.
I
We
mean.
we don't need a ton. I'm not looking to cause any problems with DPW. Like I said, I work with the fire department. I understand how the safety complex works in this town. We don't need a lot of stuff to get in the way of their hard work, keeping the roads clean. I just don't know that a sign, the people already learned that it's a cut through. So the sign will only discourage new people, but that's not really kind of what's happened at this point in the last year or so.
Yeah, I don't know what my position is yet on this. Who owns I know the area very well. Who owns the property with the bush on the corner that you're talking?
I believe that's currently a rental. I actually don't know them personally. I know that the owner just passed away and it's currently being rented out by somebody. The bush is definitely part of the problem. But the problem is that people already know that this is a shortcut. Well, they think it's a shortcut, so they just speed through it.
Right, I understand. I mean, I'm kind of feeling like Amy. Is there signs we can put up that will indicate? I mean, I hear what you're saying. I used to live on Sunrise Drive and it was the same thing. People would come down there thinking they could get to who knows where, realize they couldn't, turn around and come out 60 miles an hour.
Yes, sir.
So my big concern is for the DPW, and I will ask Mr. McCarthy to speak to this at some point here shortly. But I think that if we could put signs up and do something with that bush, because that bush, quite frankly, part of it's probably on town property. See
if I may, that bush was recently cut back a little bit. So instead of being that large bush that used to be there, it was trimmed up a bit. But that's just sort of part of the safety concern. And I know there's some other people from Highland Circle on this call, so I don't know if they have any additional concerns that I didn't mention, but a few of us are quite concerned, and especially about the kids in the roadway now. Like, it's just a matter of time.
Scott,
So, Scott,
do you have something to say regarding this?
Is it be a hardship for the DPW?
Well, yeah, it causes problems to us, and I'd like to double back to the North Lane. When the board decided to do North Lane, don't forget that was a brand new paved road. Highland Circle is not, it's not in the greatest of shape. I was just looking at it. So putting a speed bump in there on an old road has its own challenges and stuff. We catch it with a plow or something, depends how hooked in there or whatever it is. It's, you know, not the greatest idea, I guess. I guess where do we stop with this? Because where Randy, where we go today? Meadowbrook in
Meadowbrook or the side streets there.
Woodlawn.
There's just, you know, the list goes on that. And obviously putting speed humps in, there's some cost with that, and we're trying to be very cautious of our budget. I was out with Randy today looking at probably $2 million worth of road work, and we have, you know, $700,000. So that's another thing with this, you know, how were we gonna pay for it from?
And can I ask the police chief again, the police chief's opinion on traffic mitigation? Do speed humps work? What are your thoughts?
So yeah, speed humps work. They will slow people down. From a police chief perspective, anything that slows people down, I'm in favor of. I mean, that's one of the reasons I was in favor of the townwide speed limit, things like that. It gives us a little bit more enforcement authority. As your interim town administrator, I would like to know what the cost of speed humps are. One of the reasons that we instituted the townwide speed limit was because of what Scott just said, which is a where does it end type of situation, where you know, folks want speed limit signs on their road, and you know, where do we stop? How do we decide which roads need speed limit signs, which roads don't? They're not free. Speed humps aren't free either. So it's kind of a tough situation. Again, as the chief, I love it. You know, I have no problem with, if you put speed humps on a road, it will after a while, the algorithm of like Google Maps and Waze and things like that will change and stop directing people through those areas because the traffic does slow down. It really does work. But I'm not in favor of having to fix plows for the DPW or, you know, obviously pay for them in the first place, especially with what we're up against right now as the town administrator. So it's a tough one.
How do you sleep at night?
What's that?
How do you sleep at night?
I don't.
Is it the other signage too, like, you know, children at play?
Yeah, we can do any kind of signage and, yeah, we can put another throughway, children at play. I mean, it's endless of what we could do. You know, just when you do the speed bumps too, that's another thing that comes. All that has to be properly installed and measured out and et cetera to meet the MTCUD. And it needs signage, it needs paint. It's a lot more involved than just putting a speed bump in the road and us, you know, walking away. It gets pretty expensive.
David,
Scott, are those temporary heavy duty plastic rollout ones that are tacked into the road, are those an option? Because, you know, we've got a lot of roads that are in poor condition and in need of paving, but I just wonder if that's something that, you know, if we bought a couple of those, you know, we could tack it down and maybe change the algorithm like someone mentioned with Google and Waze and try it for a few months and then of course pull it up before the winter time or pull it up after we've seen the desired effect of traffic being rerouted and then move it on to the next street where we might need some speed bumps.
David, you can, but still everything goes along with that. We'd have to have the proper chevrons put on the ground, all the signage, et cetera, because it's, you know, removable. It still needs to meet the standards, which, you know,
I mean, are there,
comes with a cost.
I was gonna ask if there was like a,
Okay.
like you've said the past like 6 years, this is like increased, and I know that like one of the whole arguments for all this is because of all the, you know, Route 9 and the traffic and the construction. Is there like a time of year that we're seeing this more? Obviously, like when the students are here. But I mean, I would ask if it's possible to have like for like a few hours or like a high point of the day, like maybe have an officer like assess it, just so that we can, you know, see if it is something that like needs more action, or potentially if people are whipping through there going over the speed limit, maybe citations, traffic stops.
Yeah,
something.
I had actually already told Daniel that we would be doing that. We would
Okay.
get officers up there, we'd get the speed sign up there, things like that. But you know, I'm not sure that solves his problem. I don't want to speak for you, Daniel, but you know, he's happy with the level of police services that he sees in that general area, but at the same time, you know, we could be, you know, focused specific on that street to help.
so Daniel, is there certain times where it's busier than others?
I mean, maybe some of the people, I actually just had my first child 3 days ago. So my kid's not playing in the street yet. Thank you. But there are some other people on this call who have children that regularly recreate around there. And I know that they just kind of have to be on guard, like literally putting themselves in the middle of the road to prevent cars from hitting their kids. So I'm not sure if there's a specific time of day. I think it's just, this used to sort of be a sleepy elderly neighborhood and now it's not. So it was something that kind of wasn't that big of a problem because no one was walking around, but now there's constantly people walking up and down the road. There's kids on bikes. There's no sidewalks. Like we talked about this corner, it's cutting off two main roads that are alternatives to Route 9. So Huntington and Rocky Hill abut both entrances. So I think it's just kind of a constant problem. It's not all day long, right? Because people are coming and going, but I couldn't pinpoint a specific time for you. I do know, I mean, like the police chief said, like the policing on Rocky Hill has been amazing. And I think it's really important that we keep doing that because we've all seen the Route 9 traffic and people routing around. So that's really great. The problem is people come up Rocky Hill and then they just try to get to wherever they're going by cutting through whatever streets they see. Highland Circle is unique because it is this weird cul-de-sac with two entrances that doesn't really go anywhere. So people get stuck and realize that it's not like, across the way we've got High Meadow and Lorana. Those are all straight shots. So you can see there's visibility. People also rip through those. It's not great. I'll let the residents of Lorana come to the select board with their problems, but we're in a unique situation where it's a small street that people try to cut through really fast and they can't see anything.
You say something, Scott?
Yeah, could I suggest to the board to try, if we got not put on both ends, not a throughway and children at play, see if that would help the situation.
I
Yeah.
think
It would
that's a-
be
yeah.
relatively inexpensive and
Yeah,
not
and
very
then
involved.
it sounds like just part of the whole road program, there's a whole other subset, which is, again, areas of that need traffic mitigation over time where we can put that in if we decide to.
Yeah, and like he was saying in Lorena, that's another one that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
problem. It's all over town. It's just, I guess, where do we start?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, when people whip through French Street, remember as a kid,
Oh, yeah.
oh my gosh.
Sure.
Two wheels on French Street.
Do we have those signs in stock?
I do not believe so.
Okay, so how long do you think it would take to get them?
Under a week.
So,
With respect to the board, is there data that shows that those signs actually do something? I mean, I'm concerned that the people that use this cut through already know it's a cut through, so the sign's not going to like trick them into thinking something changed.
we won't know that till we try it, Daniel, unfortunately. But I know you've been on, I think, for the whole meeting, so
Yes,
funds are a little short right now.
I can see that. I'm wondering if my taxes get raised, if some of that can go towards my speed humps. So
We'll add that to the override.
So, yeah, I mean, we hear your concerns and we're trying to do what we can, but our hands are somewhat tied due to the financial constraints and to the fact that if, we start putting it on every street, but that somebody complains, we're gonna have them through every road in town is gonna have them on it. And that will not be a good thing. And I realize that, because it is a dead end, again, having lived on a street like that it's very easy for kids to go want to play out in the street, but that's not the best place for them.
Well, but it's not a dead end.
Well,
that's the problem.
part of it is.
The issue is it's not a dead end, and that's the issue. The issue is it's a cut through with a cul-de-sac on it. So it's a throughway that people have recently discovered and will continue to use probably regardless of signs.
Yeah. But I mean, Sunrise Drive was a dead end and it was the same type of situation. So I get it,
So,
but
yeah, so I mean, to your point, I think we're trying to do something, so we can, if the full board agrees, we can start with the signage. But I think as part of our longer range planning process, we should be looking at some of these. I mean, like you said, Newton Lane, I mean, we all know pretty much where they are, and maybe start figuring out a way to collect data to help decide what the priorities are.
So, both of the speed signs that we have will actually collect speed data for you. We can do speed data
Oh, okay.
collection and
Alright.
collect number of vehicles, speed of the vehicles. It'll give you averages. We've done them before.
Yeah.
So we can certainly do something like that. We could do on school season, off school season, things like that.
Yep. Okay.
In the meantime, Scott can do the signs. I will I'll make sure that our officers get up there. In the meantime, to help with the traffic on that road specifically, and then we can start working on that, which is identify those cut through streets that we're having problems with and start pulling some data for them.
and hopefully that'll change the matrix as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was wondering if, as another resident of 8 Highland Circle, I could just add. Is there any time for an additional comment?
Certainly, go right ahead.
Thank you. My name's Amanda Barnett, and I live at 8 Highland Circle and also have 2 young children. There's around like 9 or 10 kids who are often wanting to play out right now, and we will put those little like standalone signs that say like kids at play. But we still actually mostly need to be present, like standing in the middle of the road. And sometimes people still don't see us standing in the middle of the road. So it is the cut through. It's people being on their cell phones or looking at their navigation system. And then the fact that it's not an ideal cut through. So they speed up, they slow down to go around that corner, and then they speed up again to make up for the lost time. And there's another house where another young family just moved in. So we really do, we would love for anything. I don't know how good a sign will work because people are so focused on their navigation system. They're not necessarily looking at signs. So if there's any temporary bump or anything, I know our street is already like really hard to plow. So obviously don't want to make it harder, but it is pretty terrifying, and it's hard to feel like at peace. And I would love for the kids to be able to feel safe outside.
Are the kids playing in the road?
I mean, when they're on their bikes, yeah.
We have no sidewalks in this neighborhood, so there's no other place for them to like ride their bike. And it's not like there's not even a bike lane, so there's not even a safe place to ride a bike if they wanted to stay out of the road, as you say.
Or it's like a basketball will roll into the road and I have to like run and make sure that like there's not a car speeding through, because I have actively had to like go stand in the middle of the road and like hold my hands out and get people to slow down because they're really just not paying attention. It's not like, it seems like a quiet kind of mellow street. So they are assuming that no one's going to be there, and there's these little kids out running around.
Well, so sounds like everybody's hearing loudly what the issue is. But we'll start with the signage and the increased police presence, and then we'll keep this conversation going about the speed humps in general. I think just again as part of our planning, but probably not in earnest until we know what we have to spend.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah. That sound good?
Thank you.
Okay.
I have one last question about it. I'm also from Highland Circle.
Go ahead.
My name is
Yeah.
Elena Betke Brunswick. I live across the street at 7 Highland Circle. And I just wanted to add one of the things that wasn't mentioned yet, I don't believe, is just that, so coming from Rocky Hill, there's a curve, a pretty like distinct curve. Daniel and Amanda both live on the opposite side of the street. And there's a house before ours, we're the first one properly on Highland Circle on that opposite side, up a little bit of a hill. And the house prior to us has like a lot of trees and sort of overgrown stuff as well. And what I think one of the other things that happens is just there's no visibility coming from Rocky Hill around that corner. And so Daniel spoke about the bush, which is an issue. But I think just the one of the other parts that freaks me out is even if the kids are just waiting to cross the street, because, you know, we all talk about safely crossing the street. There's like a glare around where the sun is setting most of the year when people come around that corner. So they really can't see, and they're kind of adding in all the other things that everyone else has mentioned so far. So I think the unique part for me is just that it's a curve, and it's not it's not really a dead end, and it's a curve, and that just the way that cars fly through is very scary. And even, you know, we definitely see regulars coming from Meadowbrook and Woodlawn area as well, who, you know, their kids are grown or they're older and they're not seeing as well and they know the way, but a kid popping out or a kid crossing the street and looking 3 times is not enough at the moment. So just wanted to put my pitch in. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
That, line of sight, we can look at that too, can't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think I'd like to point out, I mean, you guys have kept coming back to sort of, well, where does it stop? If we put in speed humps here, what about over there? I think what Elena was just mentioning is that this is a really unique situation, not like North Lane and not like Newton and not like Meadowbrook, because those are all straight shots with really good visibility. So even though people speed through, you can see the whole way down the street. The visibility, along with all the other things that have been mentioned, make this particular request unique. And so I don't think that this is a slippery slope to everyone getting speed humps. I think this is just a really unique spot. There's unfortunately more traffic now with more younger people living on the street.
Yeah, so we can add the line of sight to the kind of immediate potential mitigation until we figure out a longer term solution. Right?
I usually look at that with Lieutenant Cook. I'll reach out
I
to.
was just gonna, yeah, don't you?
We go together usually.
I'm typing the email right now.
All right, great.
Okay.
All right, thank you, folks. We'll look into this and see what we can come up with for you.
Thank you for your time, guys.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
Water tanks next.
Water storage tank update. Ty and Bond.
Good
and
evening.
Scott McCarthy.
Does Scott want to do an introduction?
Yeah, water tank storage update with folks from Ty and Bond, Jeff Faulkner, Jennifer. Are here to present the update on the storage tank project. We've been working with Ty and Bond. As you all know, to design the 2 new storage tanks and locations. And they have gotten quite a ways on their design, so they wanted to give the board an update on where we are with this project.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Great. Thank you very much. Jeff Faulkner from Ty and Bond. And as Scott mentioned, colleague is also on the call, Jennifer Reynolds. Just wanted to give you this update to let you know where we are on the project. So in 2022, the town had their 2 water storage tanks inspected, and it was noted that there was deterioration going on the coatings, both on the outside of the tank, which is visible to the passersby, and also on the inside of the tank that's in contact with the drinking water. So the town was interested in, at a minimum, painting the tanks, but they engaged Ty and Bond, and after some analysis, would like to replace the tanks. The Mount Holyoke tank is about 50 years old, and the Mount Warner tank is about 60 years old. So town meeting a little over a year ago passed the funding for this project, and we've begun the preliminary design. So I think Jennifer Reynolds will give a little bit of a status update on where we are on that part of the project.
Yep. Thanks, Jeff. Happy to be here with all you folks. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. But as Jeff said, we're working on the preliminary design phase of the replacement of the 2 existing tanks and the associated, appurtenances, accessories to them. So I'll go through some of the key deliverables or tasks we have under this current scope of work and give you an update on where they are and any critical findings. So first up, we completed site surveys at both the existing Mount Warner site and the existing Mount Holyoke site. For Mount Warner, that's a landlocked parcel with 2 easements, one for the driveway and one for the water main. That site is interesting because it actually has 2 tanks, and the very small one on site, which is not in use, is, I believe, off the property line, and then there's some fencing off the property line as well. And the owner of the surrounding property, which is it's Massachusetts State Conservation Land, they would definitely like that to be resolved as part of our final design at this site. So we're taking that into account, and it's nice to have the survey, I guess triple check that. and understand where the property boundaries are. At the Mount Holyoke site, that one's located off 14 Hockenham Road, or is, pardon, the intersection of Laurel and Hockenham Road. That also has an easement, because the tank site itself is landlocked. So it's got an easement. Currently, the water main, which is buried, that passes through the easement, but the actual access road and the power lines kind of diverge from that. So I think we would be recommending to Scott and the town to look into getting a permanent easement for the access driveway as we head towards construction, just to make sure you guys, have what you need in order to maintain and access the site in the future. So I guess those were the takeaways on the survey that's been completed, and we have those files and can use them in our future phases of work. Another fieldwork task we were working on was doing wetlands flagging. This was only performed at the Mount Holyoke site. It has been completed. There are no wetlands at the Mount Warner site, so there's no flagging to be done there. And then we can use the results of our flagging activities where we go out and identify the boundaries of the wetlands to guide the permitting requirements as we head towards construction. So that's important so that we are aware of what we're going to have to work around and who we have to get approvals from in order to do any work on the site. Okay, another fieldwork task that we had was conducting a hazardous building materials assessment. The objective of these assessments, if you guys aren't familiar, is to determine the presence of different types of hazardous regulated building materials that, if they're discovered on the site, require special management during construction, during demolition in particular, so that work can be conducted safely. And you have to require specially trained people to do the work, and that can impact both the cost and the construction duration. So we go out, we sample suspect materials, and then we get them tested in the lab and then summarize them in a report, which we have sent off to Scott and DPW, summarizing our findings, and then we will be incorporating those findings into our design to make sure that we are, clearly sharing the information with any future bidders when we get to the final design and bidding phases. Hydraulic modeling, we look at how the system will respond, how the system is set up now and how it will respond during construction, in terms of supplying the needed water to all the residents as well, and also providing fire supply. That is ongoing. We've reviewed the storage capacity of the system and sort of the needs of the system based on historic data. And we've also reviewed conditions during construction where we have maybe one tank out of service because we've demolished it and are building a new one in the same site, and then done that for both tanks under construction. There are still a few other things that we're looking into, and once we have all of our findings complete, we're gonna write them up in a memo and send them to Scott and use that to guide our sequence of construction. But some initial findings are that it appears, based on your historic demand, that the current sizes of each tank are appropriate, and we would not recommend necessarily making them larger or smaller. However, operating on a single tank during construction does show some reduction in available fire flow and some changes in pressure for some of the customers, which is a little bit concerning. And we would want to look into that more and develop a plan for construction to lessen those effects. On a sort of a side note, we noted it's not really in our scope to solve this problem looking at water storage tanks, but that while you have sufficient storage, it does appear that your supply, the actual plant, is on a little undersized. The biggest indicator of this, and I'm sure Scott and the operators will kind of attest to this, but in the summer when the demands are high, the existing Callahan water treatment plant basically runs 24/7 in order to keep up with the high demand periods. I think that's not perhaps ideal. So we would probably recommend to Scott that, going forward, it would be good to reconsider reactivating perhaps like the Mount Warner wells, and constructing the treatment necessary there in order to meet any future growth, that would be the appropriate response, rather than, putting in more storage, because, storage can solve some problems, but it can't solve everything. We also are doing a review of an alternate site to build the new Mount Warner tank. That is still ongoing. We've been talking with Scott and Tony a bit about that. Scott shared with us an alternate site that's located, I guess, like I'll say down the road a little bit. And it definitely has some promising aspects to it. From a modeling and supply perspective, we have not found any immediate issues with building a tank on that site. You can build it at like an appropriate elevation to maintain the system pressures that you need. It definitely provides, like, it seems like the system would respond with that tank at the alternate Mount Warner site rather than the existing Mount Warner site. It would respond very similar to how it responds now. So that's good. There are still a few things that we need to look into, but definitely promising there. It may help with some of the concerns during construction, but we're still finalizing some modeling on that. And then from just a operability and construction side of things, it is a larger parcel, which provides more flexibility for design and construction of the tank. The parcel has frontage on the street, so that gives DPW more control over maintenance activities on the site, and you don't need any easements, which is nice. Having all infrastructure within and on a town-owned property, I think, is definitely a plus. And then the existing parcel for the Mount Warner tank can be returned or sold back, and that would also resolve, obviously, any property line disputes there. The site has, with anything, has some challenges. I think the big ones that we identified doing our desktop review is that it would definitely have some additional permitting requirements that the existing site does not have. We were sort of looking at needing to go through Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Clean Water Act with Mass DEP, the Clean Water Act with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We would need to do a historical review and coordinate with local tribes to see, if there's any concerns on that site. None of these are, we've done these before on other jobs. We have folks who are pretty experienced with them. They're not like non-starters, but they are things that we want you guys to be aware of if this site were pursued. And then the other sort of interesting piece about this site is that it is Article 97 land, which is, I would say, the permitting, this is one that I don't personally run into super frequently, but it is like land that is through a state law given a certain designation. Our review of how that land is currently set up is that there is some precedent to be able to build a water storage tank and have that be consistent with how the law is currently structured. But it's, I think, something to be aware of, because if for some reason we found that it was not consistent, then I think it would be quite a lift to be able to build on this land. But right now, I think we're optimistic. And then a few other things, obviously, I think building on the alternate site that would require some, extra care is that it would obviously be a different and a change for the neighbors who are right there, who the frontage sort of connects between two properties with like a really lovely view. And I'm sure that would take some, coordination to make sure that they're comfortable with what's going on. And then it is, it's a longish driveway that would require some additional maintenance, but I think probably not wildly longer than the existing driveway. So probably not something that can't be overcome. But just things to be aware of. And the final task that we were helping you folks with is looking for funding opportunities, and that's sort of an ongoing process through the duration of this work. We did assist a bit with the submission of a congressional direct spend application that was submitted end of March, but no word yet, which I think is standard. That can take a while to work its way through the system, and we'll keep an eye on that. We have been doing some coordination with rural development, but that didn't seem to be quite the right fit if we wanted a grant. I think they do offer loans if that were something, if that became something you guys were interested in. My understanding is it's not right now. And then we're keeping an ear out for any other opportunities that may come up that would be a good fit for the community. And then finally, overall, we are on track to complete our preliminary design in 2025. We anticipate final design would then be completed in 2026, and depending on how funding sources play out, because sometimes it can take a while to get designs approved through some of that, construction would be in the 2027 into 2028 timeframe. Any questions?
Go ahead, Molly.
Oh, I was gonna say, just, I mean, in terms of timeline, how do you feel like the project's moving along? Do you feel like you're on schedule? Are you getting delayed? Any?
I think we're about on schedule. I think we've spent more time on some of the modeling than we had anticipated. It just was a little more complex than we expected, but we had originally, I think, hoped to have the end of preliminary design and maybe, end of September. And I think now we're looking at maybe October, November, but definitely still in 2025. So, and I think, we've had some really productive meetings, keeping moving with the town. Like, it's certainly everyone on your end is supporting us really well here. And so, we just want to keep going where we can.
Yeah, and the schedule of the entire project really revolves around the funding source. So, the town has funded the project, but the town would ideally like to receive some grant money to help pay for it. So it might just take, another 6 months to a year to initiate and get that grant potential to save the town money in the long run.
What was the reasoning for looking for an alternate site on Mount Warner?
So first of all, the existing site is teeny tiny. Even if it will definitely be a challenging site to do the construction on, and that's sort of and in addition to that, we'd have to address the property line issues, which means even if we got our new tank in the exact footprint of the tank that is currently within your property line, once you pull the fence line in, there's even less work for Scott and his team to maintain the site. And I think he can speak this a little bit better, but having to use easements for maintaining the site, particularly when it comes to water storage tanks, you don't really want trees super close to them. You don't want a tree to accidentally drop a limb on the top of your tank, but perhaps that is a little bit at odds with the goals of the surrounding property owner, which is conservation land. They'd like you to leave all the trees nearby. So I understand there was some friction with them. So having a larger site where you have more flexibility in construction, a little more flexibility in layout of the site, and then the ability to maintain it as necessary, I think are all strong reasons to look at the other site. But Scott, yeah, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Where we're talking.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
It also provides an interesting opportunity where if the new tank, if the alternate site is used, the new alternate tank can be built while the existing tank is still active. So it helps out the construction scheduling aspect of having an active tank and water supply to the town during construction.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody have any other questions? Okay, I think that's it. Great. Thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you. Local dam.
Local dam discussion. Scott McCarthy, is Kayla here or is that just?
Kayla provided that document that's attached there just for her point of view from the conservation side of things.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I'm on a conservation commission, that's all.
So, in making our rounds, doing our thing here in Hadley, obviously, we own 3 reservoirs that are no longer in use. There's always been some question about the dam aspect of those reservoirs. They're earth berm dams, etc. And I was doing some research on this and found that there is a program that may help us with those dams. It's gonna be a very tricky discussion to possibly, eliminate those dams, but anyway, so I reached out to Ty and Bond if they knew about this program and etc. And Dan Buttrick from Ty and Bond has talked to me about this. We did a site visit with myself, Randy, Conservation, Mike, some folks from DER, the state, etc. And it sounds like the DER has a lot of interest in this project, but there's a catch to that. The project in a whole, all 3 dams, not just one.
I'm
So-
sorry, I have no idea where these dams are. Could you?
Bayburn Road and Upper and Lower Bay.
Reservoir.
Oh, okay,
Reservoirs,
so the
yeah.
reservoir,
Yeah,
yeah.
reservoirs.
Yes.
Yep.
So, after we had discussion with this and, Ty and Bond did a little research on it. There is some problems developing with those dams. And, there is potentially an opportunity to, eliminate that with some state funding, but it's a project in a whole.
Yeah, so I'm Dan Buttrick with Ty and Bond. I brought a little presentation. We don't have to go through it. It does have some photos in it we could look at if you want to, but basically what it comes down to is that the 3 dams or earthen embankments, as Scott said, they have DPW has been maintaining them to the best it can over the years. But they've been developing issues with primarily tree and brush growth on the embankments for the 2 Hartsbrook reservoirs, which are the 2 that are a little further to the east. The other one, which I call, so Ty and Bond designed these, I have drawings on them, but it was kind of fun to find them. With the other one we call the Shingle Mill Dam. I don't know if you have a different name for it.
Yeah, the Chamorro Road is what we would.
Yep. Yeah, so that one, the spillway is right next to the access path, and access to the embankment is really difficult for maintenance, so it hasn't been maintained to the level of the other ones. So that one has greater issues. They're all non-jurisdictional as far as the state opposite dam safety regulations go. So that means that you don't have the state come in and saying, why aren't you doing your dam inspections? Why haven't you done emergency action planning? But that doesn't mean there's not some risk there. Associated with downstream areas like Chamorro Road, Pelhart, there's a lot of structures along Bay Road and that kind of thing. So they're deteriorating, and it seems like the town's probably gonna want to do something about it eventually. And who knows how long eventually is until there might be some problem where then it becomes an emergency.
And would that most likely be brought about by a weather event causing flooding that overtaxes it, or?
It could be a weather event causing flooding. It could be one of those trees just falls one day and pops out, a bunch of soil and roots. It could be the trees get larger. There's any one of a number of things, but yes, a storm would be like the most common reason that we see dams fail. Either that or beaver completely blocking up a spillway and building up water to the top of the dam. And I don't know how bad your beaver situation is in town, but when beaver get on something, you can clear it every day and they still have a way of keeping ahead of you. So
Touching on the Chamorro Road site, I would think is probably in the worst shape. There is some leakage in the bottom of that. You can see it from the top of the dam looking down. So it's something that, you know, I feel, you know, we should kind of be proactive on. I'm not sure what, you know, Mike or Randy thought when they were up there looking, but you know, I know it's a touchy subject because they are recreational areas that people use and et cetera. We'd have to take a, you know, they go back to a natural free flowing brook again. But you know, potentially there's some funding there to do this project that's not the town's money. So that is, I guess, the high point of the
And
conversation.
no match requirement, no.
We haven't got that far yet, but it
So-
didn't sound it.
So the way this program works, it's through the Mass Division of Ecological Restoration. It's called the Priority Projects Program. So basically, if you're accepted into the program, then you get access to technical assistance from DER staff. And they will help the town hire consultants, they'll pay for consultants, they will, they'll hold the contracts with consultants. And then they will seek grant funding for the town to help actually do the construction, do all the parts of the project later. Some of those grant programs will have a match, you know, some might not. They're really good at finding grant programs, you know, that can match each other, and those kinds of things. So I've worked on a number of projects with them, with completely private dam owners, you know, just private individuals that own dams, and on those, they've been able to use state and federal funding, you know, to match each other, so that really hasn't been a very cost to the resident. You know, how it works out now in the current funding environment, you know, is to say, but if you get into the program, you have access to all of that knowledge that DER has and all of the goodwill that they built up with funding agencies to fund projects.
Great, hang on a second. David?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, Scott, have we reached out to Kestrel at all, to see if they'd be possibly willing to cover some of these costs since they have the conservation restriction? And the reason I ask is because obviously this is an all or none with this program with the state. And I can imagine with the lower reservoir, that's going to be an issue for a lot of residents as well as Kestrel and a lot of the users of that conservation land. So I just wonder if that's something that they could help with the funding to at least cover those other two dams and possibly fixing up the lower reservoir dam so that can stay.
No, we did not, but I don't know, I'm not sure, I guess, how you go about that, but the dam itself is kind of like in pretty tough shape, so restoring it, I think would be, you know,
Expensive and
very
difficult.
costly and I'm not sure what the with not taking that one out of the project, what it does for the ecological benefit, because Kayla's not here to talk, but she was in support of that. Cold water fisheries, etc. You want the water moving, not ponded up if it's not in use, etc. And you know, as for the conservation standpoint, she thought it was a really good idea to you know, potentially move forward.
Yeah, no, and I understand we have to do something. What I'm proposing is that we reach out to Kestrel and see if they're willing to cover those costs, because the alternative is that we have to go forward with this program and they lose all three of those dams and their fishing and recreation area as a result of that. So if that's something they want to maintain for those conservation areas, then, you know, they're obviously the town can't afford it at this point. So, you know, maybe they can chip in some of that. That's all. I just want to see if it's a possibility.
David, we can certainly look into it and see if it's a possibility as far as the funding goes. I think the problem is when we were out there, I recall asking something along the lines of if the town chose to say, keep the most popular reservoir, so to speak, the one where all the fishing derbies are held and things like that. Could we, could we take care of the other two? And the issue with that is that the grant program is based upon a selection process, and the project has to be palatable for them to select it. And the way that it was explained to me is that with the 3 dams in the discussion as far as the project, we stand a very good chance of being selected. Whereas if you are removing things, you're kind of dropping off your chance of being selected for the program. So it's kind of a catch-22, but we can certainly look into it as far as the Kestrel money goes.
Do we have an idea of what the total project would be for all 3 dams without grant funding or without the state program funding?
I can like ballpark off the top of my head. So we're kind of just doing this as a
Yeah,
favor to the
yeah.
program. So we haven't like done inspections or, you know, gotten a lot of stuff together, but I'm in the middle of I think I have 8 or 9 dam projects all in various stages of the process right now. Permitting costs are huge on dam. So, you know, probably $250,000 is what it tends to run
Per dam?
Design and permitting per dam. This would all be one set of permit applications, so there'd be a lot of efficiency to that. Design of a dam rule is relatively simple. Usually it's the permitting that's just permitting costs are crazy, and the data collection that you need to do to contribute to the permitting costs.
And the permitting is paid to the Commonwealth?
This is all like, yeah, so this is permit fees, but it's also just, it's time in preparing packages that the permitting agencies want to see. So all the analyses that support that and everything like that could do a dam removal really easily if you didn't have to demonstrate to so many different people that you weren't going to cause impacts, you know, in so many different areas. And those numbers vary based on, you know, like a big cost component is how attached the public is to those dams. The more attached they are, the more public meetings you have to have, and the more those regulators really want to make sure all their I's are dotted and T's are crossed, things. But then once you get through that permitting process, a removal project construction might be like quarter, a third what the cost of a dam rehabilitation might be. So, you know, but then the design of a dam rehabilitation, that's a big cost too, you know. The permitting tends to be a little simpler when you're rehabilitating a dam because you're not changing the environment that significantly. But you know, the actual design of what you're doing, that's where the cost is. So so it might be, I'm not supposed to do this, like spitballing off the top of my head to remove 3 dams in one project. It might be like $2 million, say, to remove or remove all 3. To remove 2 and rehabilitate 1, it might be $4 or $5 million. And it's for, there is a state funding program for dam repairs and rehabilitation, but they really favor dams that pose high downstream hazard or public water supplies. Definitely jurisdictional dams. I haven't seen them fund non-jurisdictional dams such as these. So it's unlikely that the town that would be able to get funding from the sources that, you know, that I've ever seen for rehabilitation repair with these dams. That would probably have to be locally funded.
Because Kestrel has a conservation restriction, do we have to jump through hoops to appease them if we want to take these dams out? Do we know the answer to that?
We don't, but we can get you the answer. We can talk with Kayla. It was one of the reasons we were considering pushing this off, but she did, like I said, she wrote us that letter just to make sure that we understood
Yeah.
that she is, you know, at our disposal if, you know, when we need the conservation efforts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is something we can ignore.
No, definitely
Doesn't make
not.
sense.
No.
Um,
But there will be a lot of kickback.
Yep.
especially on the lower reservoir. And so we got to get all our ducks lined up for sure. We got to find out whether that conservation restriction restricts us from tearing out the dams. I don't know what, what the language of that
Who
is.
Who trumps who?
Right. And then, to David's point, ask Kestrel if they're interested in keeping that lower one intact. But somebody's got to pay for it and the town certainly can't afford it. So I guess we can probably put this to bed for tonight. And if, get some more info and bring it up again. I don't think we would need tie and bond at that meeting. I think we've heard it enough. That at least I've been there, so I know what's going on. But I guess if we needed you, would you be willing to come back?
Oh, definitely. I'm in East Hampton, so.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, item 6.4, employee appointments, resignations, and retirements. Lauren, would you like to handle this, please?
Sure. So we have hired for the Board of Assessors assistant position, Charlotte Collins at 10 hours per week. And then we're looking to appoint 2 constables, William Bannock and Dennis Pip.
Make a motion to appoint Charlotte Collins as the assessor's assistant. And our great friends, William Bannock and Dennis Pipchinsky for town constables.
Second.
Okay, motion by Molly, second by Amy. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
And Parsons.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6.5, water and sewer abatement policy and meter non-compliance. And this is a first read, so discuss it a little bit and then take it up.
Please, there's no need to discuss it. Please read it. We'll take it up in the next meeting for more in-depth discussion.
Okay,
And then Kim had asked, she had sent an email out and we were asking for confirmation based off the water regulations that y'all would like her to continue to adhere to them in reference to non-meter compliance. We were just looking for an affirmation from the board.
I don't see any reason why not.
And Kim and Sue are on anything that they need to say or?
No, Kim and I, Sue's aware of this. Kim and I have been
Yep.
working on it. These are your water regulations. It's just with that foreclosure drive
Mhm.
had come up, and this was something that we just wanted to touch base, make sure y'all are all set on. There's nothing else to really go through there, because it is, like I said, y'all's water regulations.
Make a motion that we continue our current practices even with foreclosure drive.
Or just change it, if you wouldn't mind amending it, it's just to follow the water regulations and matter of compliance for water meters or non.
Okay, I'll amend that motion that we follow our water regulations in regard to non-compliant meters.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Molly. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
And Parsons.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. Did I keep that to a minute?
you did.
Thank you.
Good job. Town administrator report.
I can beat that. I got 15 seconds. Everything is the same. The only thing that I was planning on touching on tonight are the potential dates for all of the public hearings. We've been working on override stuff all day, every day. Since we already went over those dates and we did just change one, there is absolutely nothing to discuss on my report unless there's something you want to hear about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Item 9.1, our announcements.
I'm gonna start with condolences. Sadly, we have a bit of a list this evening. So on behalf of the select board, I'd like to express condolences to the families and friends of the following individuals. Elaine Kukoski, Ingrid Balonis, Ann Haneski, Catherine Kelly, and former Hadley resident and longtime volunteer Corinne Brennan. So tough couple of weeks in town. But again, sending well wishes to the family and loved ones.
continue on, or you want me to do it?
I think
Okay.
David. still-
Oh, David's gonna
Yep.
do it? Right.
All right, I got Stanley Phil, happy 104 years old, or 104th birthday, I should say. uh, we have a reminder to the Citizens Academy by emailing info@hadleyma.gov. There are limited spaces available. We have Boston Bruins Blades are visiting the Hadley Public Library on July 22nd at 2 p.m. CPA applications are due August 1st, and we have 3 openings on the Hadley Housing Authority. So if you're interested, submit your name. And Fiber Optic Task Force is looking for at least 1 more member.
Okay, anybody else have any other announcements? Anybody have any liaison reports?
Tonight.
No, but I'll make a motion and move into executive session.
Okay,
We good with that?
I think we
Excellent.
are.
So I make a motion that we move into executive session for Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Appellate tax board cases. Appellate, isn't it appellate?
Appellate.
Wow, sorry, I caught that. Appellate tax board cases, Elaine Manor LP versus Hadley Board of Assessors, ATB numbers F 349233 and F-F-352939, and Hadley Campus Plaza LLC versus Hadley Board of Assessors, ATB number F-351739. And Mass General Law, Section 30A, or and Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, the interim council on aging director and town administrator, wage scale for deputy fire chief, and pursuant to Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A3, classification appeal, job description approval, land use coordinator, and we will not be reconvening an open session tonight.
Second.
As chair of the Hadley Select Board, I state that the board has moved and seconded to enter into executive session, and that I state that discussing the matter in open session will have a detrimental impact on the bargaining position of the town of Hadley. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Egan,
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
And Parsons.
Yeah.